value, it is the ability and willingness to turn those rocks into things of actual value that produces wealth. When did that happen? Oh, that's always been the case. Literally forever. No, that can't be hecking true, because that would mean that resource extraction that occurred 100 years ago would not be a satisfying contemporary explanation for contemporary conditions of poverty. Rather, it would be the contemporary inability to turn resources into things of actual value that people want to consume. And that inability would be tied to things like corruption, like bad institutions, like bad governance, things which are... actually, my country...
On my own, here we go.
Very cute.
Bought a couple of mansions, just for practice. 500 in jewelry, chain was magic. Never had it in public, late reaction. 50K to cousins, post a caption. Pray none of my enemies hold me captive. I grieve different.
Lord have mercy.
Okay, so we hooked up at Denny's.
You what?
Hooked up at Denny's.
You got bust down at Denny's?
No, we just hooked up. Like, we just met up there and had breakfast.
Oh, you mean you linked up?
No, linked is a dirty connotation. Like, it's a sneaky link or something. Nah, the only links we had were sauce.
Okay, so like, did you get a sausage or like, I'm confused. Are we speaking in code or something?
Yeah, I just told you, I got hooked.
Run to me, confess your love. At least just let me say that when I talk to you, oh Cupid walks right through and shoots.
Interesting.
You should try gentle training. Hold my hand.
Fuck, I look like a Jet 2 holiday?
No. No, not the Jet 2 holiday. No. So. And we're still back to the shit goddamn internet link. I'm mad. I'm upset. I'm upset and I wish it would fix itself.
Shannon Sharp was fired from ESPN after losing a...
The dick wet and firm.
Hey, you wanna go to American Eagle?
Oh, I can't go in there because I'm black.
We all had that one homie with the basement. He'd say, come through, bro, we'll get lit. But when you got there, the stairs just kept going down and down and down. He'd say, don't be a bro. Make the descent. You thought you were there to play Halo 3, but next thing you know, you've entered the sunken city of Mungmos. Your friend kneels before the sanctum altar and utters, King of Nightmares, I've brought you an offering. Now you are standing beneath the gaze of King Mungmos as he judges if you are worthy. The king declares, trial by combat, and you are thrust in the arena against Battle Saint Mangar. You manage to deliver a killing blow and escape. Your friend laughs as the horde of Mungmos chases you back up the stairs. The next day at school, he tells your homies that you acted like a in front of Mungmos, King of Nightmares. No one believes you and your aura has decreased.
We are removing Guardian Revival and Atlas Bomb from play.
I'm glad the Iron Fist one's gone. That shit was annoying.
Loki is leaving the Ragnarok Rebirth team up.
Why?
2 brand new team ups are being added.
That seems so pointless. Yeah, this is the one I've seen already. A lot of people are freaking out over this, but like, one, I don't think Luna Snow has enough buffs. Number two, that means you have to run Adam Luna. Are you really gonna run Adam Luna? Vibrant Vitality. Wait, it's damage boost? The wall's healing?
I can be reckless now.
Did he just give overshield to everyone around him? It heals? Shut up. No, that's shield. It's shield and heal. Shield when it's full. Heal. Oh. What in the Sombra TP?
Now that's power.
Okay, he gets a special dash as well. Wait, who? Blade? Oh, he does. Wait, does he? That's interesting. Okay.
We are removing.
Having an abusive parent is kind of funny in retrospect, like mommy.
As soon as this cow walked.
So not anything interesting. There go Taco.
Bitch, I'm big dude. Bounce that ass if you think I'm handsome. Put a arch up in it, eat that pussy, stand for something. Let me know what's up. I ain't pulled down my pants for nothing. Baby girl, we grown. Bend it over, shorty John. Hey, bitch, on lit. I pop out that random. Bitch, it got my ear. Water bells, I'm saying something. I'm big humble bull. I ain't got all these fans for nothing. Choppers around something.
That's funny.
Someone typed in his post, they said, we're at the nail salon and the girl's boyfriend didn't pay for her nails. My mom is messy, and she's like making like a stank face or something.
Layers of programs falling off of me, shivers up.
And green herbs in new era.
Yeah, that ad was confusing. Maybe Neeson's other ads are more straightforward.
People are setting migrant shelters on fire and
Dance flow silly, the ladies gon' feel me. The fellas in the back, and they twisting up a belly. Get silly, get silly, get silly, get silly. Dead on your back, what you
Okay. Got anything meaningful? Hopefully this link updates. Hold on to us, hold on to what is still alive. Every time I look at this clip, it's always funny to me. Certainly, I'm easily entertained.
Hey guys, and welcome to the Path to Exile podcast, partner with Mobilytics. I am your host, Cal Torek, and this is our first episode. Joining me...
Everyone is always partnered with a goddamn fucking companion site. I swear to God. I swear to God.
Every week will be my co-hosts Miso, Shiro, and Dead Rabbit. But before we get fully into introductions, let's talk about how this podcast started. I love podcasts, and whenever I have a passion or a hobby, it kind of consumes my life. And I was missing podcasts desperately in this game. There are some of them are consistent, but for the most part, when you get a podcast, it's about once every 4 months when a new league happens. sometimes they'll do a post-mortem podcast, but really we're just missing people who play the game frequently and talk about it a lot. And I noticed that when I was watching Miso and Dead Rabbit, and that they were constantly going on these long-form rants almost about things about the game that I either agreed with or disagreed with. And that's when we reached out to each other, we got the podcast going, and then a couple weeks later, very quickly, I mind you, we all really wanted to get this out. Here we are with episode 1 of our podcast.
So you're saying that you did it in the silence instead of just taking questions in the chat. That's weird. I'm personally of the belief that a podcast should be done live. A podcast should be done live. It should be recorded live. You should be doing it with some focus of intent, some form of focus. Because a pre-recorded podcast is not worth shit. It just isn't. Because a pre-recorded podcast is a safe podcast. A safe podcast is not an interesting podcast. I don't want to be one to harp on what is Blood yapping about, but we cannot get away from the low-level investment of opinions and actuation of opinions. As long as people decide that it's never acceptable to have a place in which to have long-form discussions about a concept that people claim they know a lot about, but don't actually want to discuss. Because at the end of the day, I agree with different. There are things that cause me untold levels of dismal pain. Well, it's like, what is it worth? If that's what you're going for. That's me. As well as being me. Let me make sure that I put this out. Should I put this out? What up with you? At least that's mostly okay.
It's going to be pretty cool. We're going to talk about a lot Path of Exile 2 specifically, but it's not just going to be about the game and like patch notes and stuff. We are 3 build makers. We're going to have heavy emphasis on build making, but specifically as well.
Build maker is such a weird way to describe. I make content where I try to spam as much content as possible to get myself as many clicks on my stream as possible. Because that's all I hear when I hear somebody say build maker. You are a person who plays the game, and in playing the game, you make builds. If you make builds specifically for people to just click on the shit, you're not really playing the game. You're trying to put as many people through as many holes as possible, and that is not going to lead to a great reaction and comeback when it comes to getting an interaction with people. Now, that's just me being an naysayer. Nobody has to care about that. That's just important to me. Because to me, you have to be able to actually put together something that I can rationally follow, that anybody could rationally follow, and then expect to have some feedback towards. Because making the game is one thing. Make the game, play the game, experience the game, blah 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 the game, and then eventually, at some point, once you've done all those steps, you get back to the rationality of basics for the game. So a good example, Belitri, my beloved. Playing the game and getting to a point where you're bored at the baseline, so you start modding your shit, is a sign that you are looking for deeper complexity, not for greater simplification. A build maker is doing things to create greater simplification for people who already say, game's hard, I've been told the game is hard, so I have to cheat multiple steps. That is not, for one, confirmed content towards the direction that gives you the greater outcome for what you say you need and want. You shouldn't be looking to remove as much content as possible. You should be looking to add greater content. And build making doesn't create content. What it creates is the same loop of base game, cruel flip, merciless flip. That's boring. That's boring. There are some things that are changed and are evolved and are made better, like finding the bases to make your item flips, finding the bases to chance your item bases, finding the bases to make useful leveling equipment for agnostic builds, but it does not make the game more fun. The game opens up the more and deeper you get. It does not open up the further and lazier you get. In order for that to be changed, you have to progress. But if you're constantly making builds, then you're just playing the game over and over and over again. And for a newer player who's going to be copying off of your build, if they don't like that build, guess what they're going to go back to having to do? Make another character to roll another build and follow it from level 1 to a level 99 plus 100. They're going to push from the lowest content to the highest content, and they're going to be following your guide, step by step, preferably, so that they know exactly what the leveling process is supposed to be, what their leveling tree is supposed to look like, what their upgraded skills are supposed to look like, what their mid-game is supposed to look like, what they need, not they can have, not is a presence goal for the prescience of their builds overall virality, what they mandatorily have to function, or it does not work. They have to follow all of that to scale. Eye horror, eye horror. And the problem that I have with that is that SSF does not really exist right now in Path of Exile 2. If you're playing an agnostic type build, maybe if you look through what I did with Elemental Bleeding with the Blood Mage, you can make an agnostic build that can get to tier 4 content. Unfortunately, you do not get to have that. Instead, you have extra bullshit. And the extra bullshit leads to consequences that still affects the overall of the game. It's the same thing with people who give advice going into a live service game. I could use Helldivers off the top of my head since I'm setting up content for that. All of the necessary background steps that a person needs to understand to fully understand what exactly is being described to them when we tell them things that are necessary from the Obsidian file, that is effort. That's work. Effort, time, and work is not what people want. Because they're not going to go to this document, and they're not going to go to my shit without going to my broadcast and putting in exclamation mark Helldiver 2 or HD2 or H22 guide, and then go to my shit and say, well, what is it that I have to learn from this document? Oh, this? and this, they're not going to read this like this. No, it needs to be in video format. They're going to want it in video format. It has to be in video format, because you need to remove the difficulty from understanding the concept. Hence why these are just the brainstorms. Granted, this whole thing itself will become a documentation that will actually express how fucked this particular situation was, but all the rest of these are things that can be expressed at visual, that can be talked over with background footage. This being modular breakdowns of concepts, explaining things that will have features alongside of it, examples that will be visually shown on the content, things that can be broken down into concepts that can be written as what you do and what you don't do. Unfortunately, that's just how people play games. And unfortunately for ARPGs, the more details, the less helpful. Unfortunately. For the obliviousness of most people, it shouldn't affect like that, but that is the nature by what we have to deal with, unfortunately. Let's go, Dreamer.
The community. We're going to be showcasing community builds, hopefully every single episode, and we will be showcasing some at the end of today's episode. But before we just get fully into all the Path of Exile 2 topics, we are on Misoshiro's channel, but some of you might not know him because you're fans of me or Dead Rabbit, or you might not know me or Dead Rabbit because this is Miso's channel. So we're just going to quickly run through some introductions, who we are, how we got into gaming, how we got into ARPGs and POE2, and content creation and whatnot. So Miso, take it away, man.
For sure. Thanks for the setting me up. But guys, Misoshiro, Path of Exile 2 content creator. I've been making content for Path of Exile 2 since, I guess, the launch of Early Access. Before that, my main game that I streamed and made content for was for Lost Ark, so I guess I got my start with content creation in the MMO space. Still a big fan of MMOs, so I'll probably play any big MMO that comes out, as long as it doesn't conflict with any Path of Exile seasons. But I started playing ARPGs all the way back with, well, not all the way back, actually, I didn't play ARPGs very, very early on compared to a lot of people. A lot of people I feel like started with, like, D2. I did not play D2, I played D3 as my first ARPG, but I also did play Path of Exile since the beta on and off, so I got that nice little Kiwi badge on my profile. But, you know, played D3, fell in love with the genre, played Path of Exile, had a good time, and, you know, continued on playing more and more and more. And while I would say that, you know, for me, both MMOs and ARPGs are kind of like the two genres of games that I really, really enjoy playing. But, you know, looking forward to having a successful and fun podcast series with these two boys and sharing that with y'all and having good discussions.
I'm kind of the same. Hello, it's me. I'm me. It's Dead Rabbit, I think. No, I'm kind of the same. I would say I was kind of thinking about what my gaming career looked like, and I always just get back to I'm kind of a Blizzard child. I would say I was born in 1991, so I was in the ripe age of like 12, 13 years old when all the Blizzard games had their like big hurrah. So one of my first games actually ever that I played on a PC was Diablo 2. So I still remember. I think Diablo 2 LOD released in 2002, so I was around 11, 12 years old at that stage, and that was my first actual PC game that I ever played. My parents weren't really into full like PC stuff, but a friend of mine, whose dad was a big Blizzard fan at that stage, had Diablo 2, so we saw it there, and he made us play Diablo 2 with him. So that was actually my first experience, and I never really stopped playing Diablo 2 at any point. I only really stopped playing Diablo 2 when Path of Exile 2 came out. So in my opinion, Path of Exile 2 is the spiritual successor to Diablo 2. I think Blizzard couldn't really do that. Other than that, I'm the same as Miso. I played a lot of World of Warcraft. But when I was younger, I played a lot of Warcraft 3. I played all the Blizzard games before it went into the Diablo 4 space. Played a lot of Diablo 3 as well. I love ARPGs. I love any game that has a min-maxing build aspect. If there's an economy on top of that, I'm just sold. So you can probably already see why I love POE2 so much, or why I love POE1 so much, and I love Diablo 2 so much. So yeah, this is just natural to me. I have high hopes. Yeah, that is...
Warcraft's so good. Warcraft's so good. I played a lot of
Yeah. I played Undead Ladder all day.
Ooh,
sometimes 2v2. My friend played Night Elf.
You're a rat.
I played
You're a
Undead.
rat.
What?
No surprises from an Abathur main.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you know, yeah, I told you, I did the mistake yesterday that I told you that I played mostly Arbiter on Heroes of the Storm, yeah. I should also say, I think it's pretty similar to all of us. I think we all kinda have the same inclination of playing games that are massively multiplayer online. I think that is pretty clear. I'm gonna get, like, shit tons of hate for this, but I never really played any single player games. I haven't played Elden Ring, I haven't played Witcher, I don't know, like, there's probably so many games that people in chat would be like, oh my god, I never played any single player games.
Zeldas, any of those, any Nintendo stuff?
Final Fantasy VII. that was probably the first game I ever played on the PlayStation 1 because I found the PlayStation 1 at the side of the road when I was like 7 years old. I know how to believe, and a friend had Final Fantasy 7. That is probably the only single-player game I ever really played for more than 100
on the
hours.
side of the road, and it just worked.
The PlayStation 1, yeah, I did. It was just a PlayStation 1, no cables, nothing. And then, yeah, my parents weren't really that big into video games, so I had to fight for it. And yeah, but yeah, Final Fantasy 7. I think other than that, I always needed multiplayer. I always needed that. I always needed at least the glimpse of having like other people in the game with you, if that makes sense.
Yep, I'm mostly the same. I have a huge multiplayer background. I call myself like a Generation 2 gamer. That's like I'm born in '90, a year before you, so like that. I call our Generation 2 gamers the ones that hit that first wave of real good games from like Blizzard and stuff. My dad's a Generation 1 gamer. He's the ones that grew up on like Pong and then like arcade games, and eventually got the first console and stuff. So from the moment I like have consciousness, I remember playing games. So I played like so many different game genres, but I very much was a Blizzard gamer. I grew up. I remember him playing Warcraft 1 on his laptop. He had a laptop for work that could run the game. So I remember him playing Warcraft 1. I was immediately playing Warcraft 2, playing Diablo 1. I remember having nightmares about the Butcher and my mom yelling at my dad about it, like not letting me watching him play that game and stuff. So I've been playing those games for the longest time. I've never been like, I've always liked ARPGs, but I've never been like an ARPG enthusiast. It's always like around an ARPG I come and go, like maybe for a week or two. I've always been mostly an online or competitive type gaming. Around 2010, I got very involved in esports. I started off with StarCraft Brood War, eventually transitioning into StarCraft 2. I used to compete and eventually started doing commentary, coaching, observing. I started doing work for MLG, DreamHack. Eventually transitioned over to Heroes of the Storm, where I started doing commentary. Eventually started a podcast there. It was called Town Hall Heroes. We did like hundreds of episodes and ended up going to like BlizzCons and stuff for that. Nice. I very much have a multiplayer and like almost a competitive gamer background. I almost prefer competitive games. I would say my favorite genre right now is games like Dark and Darker, where they're like looter shooters, where you got PvE elements, but there's also the constant. Dark and Darker is in an awkward state, but there's other games around like it that are similar genre. But I really like PvP games. So it's very rare that a game. I was big into Lost Ark. Actually, the first time I saw Misox ever was his Lost Ark content forever ago. When Lost Ark first came to the North American servers. Oh yeah. That's part of the reason why I was hyped whenever I saw you feature one of my videos in your short. I was like, oh yeah, it's that Lost Ark guy. Like I remember you from back in the day. So I was playing Lost Ark when it first came out, mainly because of the MMO aspect of it. I'm big into MMOs. I mean, my channel's almost like got all its popularity from making WoW videos when Season of Discovery came out. So it's very rare for me to be this into an ARPG. And Path of Exile 2, I've already put over 2,000 hours into Steam. I work from home, so a lot of that is like, you know, sitting in my staff trying to sell stuff throughout the day. But
and you calling me an idol warrior?
You could call me an idol warrior, yeah, or a hideout warrior, yeah.
Okay,
there's a lot of AFK
we're all the
throughout
same,
the day. We're all the same, man. Yeah, but this game has scratched an itch for me, which not even like other ARPGs, other games haven't done, which I guess transitions, into the next topic is, what is it about POE2 that has really stuck to you guys? Like I said, I've just played 2,000 hours. In Dawn of the Hunt alone, I checked yesterday, I have 14 characters in endgame. Some of them are the same class I've leveled multiple times. I leveled 3 Warbringers for some reason. I'm just super into this game right now, despite how unfinished it is, despite how bad it is in so many ways. Bad. You know, there's something about this game that it is just drawing us all in. Part of it to me is that it's a blank canvas in a sense that there is so much undiscovered. So like, there's so much every day you're learning something new that's like, oh hell yeah, this just changed 3 of my builds in the past. But for me specifically, what does it to me is definitely the combat. There is, whenever you're doing I call them balanced builds that don't one-shot bosses, where you actually get to see all the phases and the mechanics. When you're doing, and it's a skill that is well designed, that has a good feel to it. The combat in this game is better than any other ARPG, like by far, in a way. Like it doesn't matter, like obviously there's some really clunky stuff to the game, but when you're in it, when it's working as it should, and you picture what it's going to be in 2 to 3 years, it just, that's where I get sucked in. It's mainly the combat for me though. Like obviously there's a lot of things that need work and that aren't perfect, but for me it's the combat. That's why I am so sucked in. It's like I just look at it in its future, I'm just like, I don't see any other ARPG coming close to it without like a serious overhaul.
Yeah, I think that's. Go, Miso. I think that's kind of exactly the point that I've been making a lot of the times on my stream as well. I've been using the metaphor over and over again. People who watch my stream will probably be annoyed at this point that I use this metaphor over and over again. But I think, honestly, talking like foundation of a game, and I'm a big ARPG guy, and just strictly speaking ARPGs, I personally have never seen a foundation of a game that is this good. There are obvious and glaring problems, and there are obvious things that need to be improved, and we are going to talk about those things. But I think it is very, very important to realize in what stage we are at this game right now, and how good the foundation here actually is. And I've used this metaphor over and over again. I'd rather have a good foundation and an unfinished house on top of that good foundation, rather than an unfinished foundation and we hastily build a house on top of that, and that house is crumbling in the next 6 months and the house is gone. And I'd rather have it this way, that there's stuff to improve on the house rather than the foundation. And just like you said, I think the combat is amazing. The game feels amazing to play when there's no server issues and when the performance is actually going. The game just feels amazing. It looks amazing. The sound design is amazing. The bosses, as on the stage that we are right now, I would like to have some more variety in the end. We need more of that. I just said earlier on stream today that my biggest wish is just more boss content and more hard boss content and more stuff to do when it comes to that. I want a 2-minute fight where I'm moving around, where I'm like dodging skills, where I'm like getting into the next phase, where the boss transforms, whatever. I want that. But I think at the stage we are right now, the foundation is just amazing, and that's why I am so hopeful. I am streaming and playing this game because I'm just so hopeful for the future of it. I'm not sure if I would be still playing it as religiously as I would be doing it right now, because there is a lack of things to do right now. But what I enjoy right now is just streaming the game and just having discussions like this, putting out content for the game, and just being ready for the future and just going as we need. And like I said, this is not saying that there is not stuff. Obviously, there is stuff that needs improvement, and we like I said, we are going to talk about that. There is a lot of stuff actually that needs improvement.
I love the need that we always have to preface that. Like we can't, like there's this stuff. There's always that inherent, like we can't glaze too hard because then people are gonna be like, they're not saying enough negative. Like I get what the need to say this.
Touching softballs to Jonathan and stuff. The whole shit that Try got for his interview when he was not asking the right questions to Jonathan and stuff. It's the softballs then, and you're glazing. So you always have to preface it like that. But yeah. Like I said, I think foundationally the game is amazing. I think it's going to be like, we are going to look back in a few years, I think, at this stage of the game and say like, oh damn, has it changed a lot, and how good is it now? Okay, sorry, Miso. I went on a rant.
No, and I think not even like a few years later, like we're probably going to be seeing huge changes every single season. Like, I mean, I feel like there was a lot of changes between point 1 and point 2 with how the game felt, at least, especially at launch, for some better, some worse. But definitely the game's going to change a lot, even within early access. And then 1.0 is probably going to look way different than what it is looking like right now. But I mean, just to agree with everybody, like, the game just feels good to play. I always say this, right? I feel like Path of Exile 2, out of all the ARPGs, it just feels good to press the buttons compared to every single other ARPG. Like, of course, there's other ARPGs that feel good to play too, but out of all of them, I think Path of Exile 2 feels the best to play, like, press the buttons. The sound design, the animations, all of those really work together to actually make the game feel like a, just like a good game to play. I think that, especially this was very, very apparent when I swapped over to LE. Nothing against LE, I like the game, but when I was playing LE during this season, it just didn't feel the same to press the buttons. It didn't feel the same to play the game. It just felt a little arcadey compared to Path of Exile 2, which, the skills really feel like they have weight to them, and every time you press some of these skills, it just feels very, very satisfying.
That's because it was designed, like actually designed, with intention and goals and feeling. Granted, I'm barking up the tree of people who specialize in making you feel FOMO if you're not doing billions of damage, describing how they are doing billions of damage, but, if all things are equal, bro, this is part of the goal.
To the point where I'm just like, I don't know if I can play any other ARPG as much as this one. It's just, it has the builds, has the feel, has the animations, has the new graphics, has WASD, which a lot of people say that they really can't play Path of Exile 1 because it doesn't have WASD. Everything just comes together and it feels super good.
Yeah, the weight to me, that's the word I use a lot too, is that it's just immersion, I guess is another word I would use. That weight helps me get immersed into the gameplay. When I'm playing other ARPGs, I almost call them, whenever you get a build like going to an extent, not even going, like sometimes it's just like 2 hours into gameplay. ARPGs almost...
When you get to the point where your build is actually functional and actually does things, and you don't feel like shit when it's doing said thing, when it's rewarding, usually by consequence of emergent design, also normal type shit.
Almost turn into second monitor games where you have to have like almost watching something on the side while you're playing, because outside of like the pinnacle content, you don't need to really pay attention once you've got it mastered. And especially early on, if the league starts in Path of Exile 2, there's a level of focus that is required for this game. No matter, like, at least with the builds I do, I very rarely have fights that are tier 4 pinnacle arbiters that aren't at least 2 to 3 minutes. So when you play the game with my silly builds, you get a taste of what those longer fights can become. Obviously, the balance is kind of all over the place, but one thing Miso mentioned was that how we went from 0.1 to 0.2, there was these big change in gameplay, and that was one of the things I noticed. We were like, oh, okay, this jump means like the next jump and the next jump and the next jump. This game's going to be good at some point. But at one point early on, they promised us frequent patches. They did one patch. Specific people in the community had a meltdown over that, and GGD was like, oh, okay, we can no longer do mid-season nerfs. And then in 0.2, at some point, they said, okay, we're not going to do these patches, these nerfs anymore, but expect more frequent patches. And my problem is with the seasonal model right now, the game is not ready for even a 4-month seasonal model. That's why this one's almost going to be 5 months, almost 6, right? It's like 5.5 months. Like, they kind of, like, stretched it a little longer, right? And that's because the game's not ready for that. What the game needs is more frequent patches. And, I mean, we've all been counting, like, come on, we're 0.22, we're 0.22. What is your guys' thoughts? Miso, let's start with you. What is your guys' thoughts on just the overall patch cadence and them trying to force this back-to-back 4-month cycle? I understand from a business perspective why they would want to have this back-to-back 4-month cycle, but do you think the game is ready for that? And, like, where you're at on these patch cycles right now?
I mean, I understand the 4-month cycle. Like, in a way, I feel like they're trying to treat, because I think a lot of the community, it feels like, treats Path of Exile 2 kind of like a full release game. So they kind of do want.
It more or less is. It's just them honing and fine-tuning everything since then. But unfortunately, there's way too many people that do not feel like it has actually gotten to the point that it's not a full release game, because it just doesn't quite feel like it's there. World's least efficient goddamn heart.
Want to treat it somewhat like a full release game, but with patches in between. Now, what I will say is I've always had this opinion since the beginning. I think that early access, you need to make changes, and the main issue with what happened with point 1 was that they made changes way too frequently, where it was like, I think it was within the first 3 days they already nerfed something, if I remember correctly. It was just like way too frequent, way too often, and the nerfs came in hard. Now, do I agree with their stance of like, oh, we shouldn't do mid-season nerfs? I don't completely agree. I think, again, the problem was that it just came way too fast, way too often, and that's what felt really bad. But, you know, if they don't want to do nerfs, that's fine. I just think that right now, they had it for a bit, actually, where it was like it was like after the podcast with Ziz, right? They had all these things that they needed to work on, and they had a patch every couple of days, you know, at least one every week for a little bit, and then they just completely press the brakes and stop. And I'm not sure if I like that. I would have much rather them kept the cadence and kept updating things, even if they were smaller patches rather than bigger patches. But I think the biggest problem now is just that we haven't had an update for basically an entire month or so, and we need that. We need a little bit more life into the game, especially when it is early access, and a lot of people want to play Path of Exile all day. A lot of people want to play Path of Exile from the beginning to the end, but the constant tone is just like, we're out of content, we have nothing to do. And it makes sense. It's early access, there's gonna be less content, which is why I think getting more of these updates more often is gonna be good. And, you know, they did promise us 0.22, at least Jonathan did on Try's podcast, after Path of Exile 1 was released, and they could get their balance team back in shape. So, you know, I would have liked to see something like that. And I'm still crossing my fingers, hopium, that we're gonna get something, but as it stands, I don't know, I'm a little bit more hesitant about it and saying that they're gonna bring something within the next couple of weeks. But I'm all for more updates. I'm all for more balance patches, more changes, especially early access. They need to be trying things, experimenting with things, changing things, just to keep the game fresh especially while there's not as much content in the game that is necessary.
You guys get the, I'm tired of hearing that early access excuse. Like, what do you mean early access excuse? They're in early access. It's not an excuse. Like, I get that comment so much every time I mention early access. Like, how long are they going to be able to use that until they say the game's finished and worthy at 1.0, you know? But it's definitely early access for me. Rabbit, what are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I do think it kind of boils down. I think a lot of the frustration comes from that people kind of feel lied to at some stage, because
where they never lied to us. I wish there'd be some people that explain what the fuck that means, because they never lied to us. They told us up front what was going to happen. They told us how it was going to happen. They told us when it was going to happen. They told us the means by how it would happen. They gave us every single opportunity to know exactly how we wanted to feel about going into feeling things, and not to get our hopes up. And somehow, we decided that wasn't good enough for whatever purpose. That's just flabbergasting. To be quite honest, that's flabbergasting. Because who the fuck said we were promised shit? So that's probably not enough for some people. I want to see what happens if I rip this in half.
Whether you are a POE1 player or whether you are a POE2 player, both sides really seem to be getting a little bit of the short end of the stick a little bit, because both sides kind of feel like, oh yeah, we're getting left alone because of this other game, right? POE1 players are like, yeah, this, I just saw a clip earlier today of a POE1 creator saying, yeah, this league is already boring, it's like 1 month in, this is so half-assed because they are probably...
Well, what happens when you burn yourself through all your content, bro? What do you expect to happen?
Working on POE2. On the other side, I see POE2 people saying the exact same thing for that exact same situation.
Really?
They're saying, yeah, POE2 is...
That's cool. They shouldn't be. There's no reason for them to be upset. We already knew what was going to happen.
Being left alone because they are doing like POE1, right? So it is definitely, I do think it boils down to there has been a little bit of miscommunication on their part. I do think so. I think they do realize that though, and I think they are just in a situation where it is going to be rough in the current stage that it is, or in the current development stage of the POE2 and continuing on POE1. It is going to be tough to hold this and to actually provide content for both games on this regular cycle. I think they just didn't really know what they were getting into, I'm guessing, but in my opinion, that is something that will happen. It will always happen. I mean, you are a game developer yourself, Counter-Strike, so it's always going to be like that. I've worked in many different jobs in my lifetime as well, where I was just like, oh fuck, I got in over my head here, and it will just happen. I think their approach so far has been good. I do agree though that the radio silence we have been having, I'm just speaking from a POE2 point right now, it is obviously very bad for the game. The player retention, we are at the lowest stage of player count that we have ever been, and I do think this is due to us not knowing anything. A lot of people that have already quit don't really see a point in playing anymore, because why could you blame them for that? There's not really much to do. So
there's lots to do. There's lots to discover. There's lots to try. There's lots to get chances to try. Every single thing under the goddamn collar has been provided for us to enjoy. It's just up to us to decide if we want to do it or not. And there are some people who are being lazy as fuck about that and dragging their feet. That's all it is. That's all it is.
If we would have had a 0.22 patch with balance changes again, if it would have been any close to the 0.21 patch, there would have probably been a much more life state in the economy right now, in the player state right now. It is just a situation that we're in right now. There is stuff that needs to be not like that in the future, and I don't think we're gonna get a 0.22. I was hopeful for a little bit. I just hope that the 0.3 update is gonna hit incredibly huge now. It has to have a much higher player retention rate than the one that we had here, and I think there are multiple reasons for why the player retention was this low for the Dawn of the Hunt League. I think the dominance of Lightning Spear, or the perceived dominance of Lightning Spear, was definitely a point where
there is no perceived dominance. Lightning Spear is just good. It's the way the scaling is done in this game. Anything that takes physical damage and converts it to another type is just flat out good. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's just good. It's just strong. It's a weapon, and it's a type that you can build around that does whatever you need it to. You need it to be an engine, it becomes an engine. Do you need it to give a feedback loop? It gives a feedback loop. You want to pump it for damage? Pump, 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 pump. Nice. Acronyms. Acronyms.
A lot of people got bored pretty quick, and also just lack of endgame content, I think, is also just something why the player retention was.
There is no lack of endgame content, you're just bored. Tell the truth. If you're bored, that's one thing. Don't say there's no content. There is content.
Was this bad, because I don't know, the league started in April. I think 1 month in it was already looking pretty badly, and if then a POE2 league comes on top of that, yeah, it's not looking good.
Can you define badly for me? Like are you comparing it to 0.1, or what exactly are your standards for badly? Because I don't actually look at the metrics to I'm isolated in my own little circle. I'm just playing my builds and I'm having fun. So yeah. What does badly mean to you?
I just think that a game like this, even in early access, I think it needs to be at a better player retention rate after 1 or 2 months than it is right now. And I think it's just something that is a sign for a game's healthiness, in my opinion. That how many players are still playing a game like this, which is a game that is meant to be played for hundreds and hundreds of hours every few months. If the dip is as hard as it was for this league, it's definitely something to look at, I would say. I'm obviously someone, I'm basically defending a position here that I personally don't hold, because I'm still playing it every day for 8 hours. So
next episode, I'm going to make sure I want to compare the dip from this league to 0.1 might not be a good point, maybe 3.26, because 0.1 was like at extra hype to it since the launch of the game, right? So there's going to be a little bit of an extra boom and sustained length there. But I'm curious maybe how it compared to 0.3. Miso, any last thoughts on this? One thing you actually did say that I want to talk real quick on is you mentioned that the lying that they do, and lying, to me it's never like lying. I do the same thing. I have the same job as Jonathan does at my job, and it all comes from excitement. It's like you want this to happen at this time, and you think it will happen, and they're never misleading. It just comes from them being too excited and them not having realistic goals and expectations for themselves. I still think to this day, like right now, it is unrealistic for them to expect themselves to do a league every 4 months for both games. That is ridiculous. They're not going to be able to sustain that for probably another year in my mind. So I just feel like they're not being, if they're lying to anybody, it's to themselves. They're not actively lying to the community. They're lying to themselves, and they believe they are being honest with their goals and expectations. But I just feel like they're they're just a little too excited about the game, which who wouldn't be, you know, working on this game. Sorry, Lisa.
No, and I mean, part of that I do think might come from the fact that a lot of these interviews are probably unscripted. Like they don't get handed these questions and then like they get vetted and then, you know, whatever. Like we've clearly seen podcasts in the past where Jonathan has been like, yeah, I don't know if I want to answer that question anymore. You know, he's clearly had a little bit of a sour face when certain questions get asked and he just glazes over the question a little bit. So it definitely comes from a side of like you said, excitement, but then also partly like with these podcasts, they aren't necessarily, you know, Jonathan and Mark are from my perspective pretty transparent with a lot of things, and they talk about all like, you know, their successes as well as like failures and things like that. So I think that a large part of it is that excitement and transparency that they have with the community, where these kind of pieces of communication do come in and these issues do happen. But overall, in terms of like the retention stuff, I think it just makes it like, hopefully this league will be an exception, because I think that there was a huge fall off at the beginning when Dawn of the Hunt came out and people were not happy, and there.
I don't know why they would not be happy. There was a lot to do, and there was a lot to say, and there was a lot to be a part of. I think that's laziness. I think it's laziness. Perhaps I'm coping, but it's laziness. I swear it's laziness. Nice. Black plate. Because I'm just not seeing how you're experiencing that. I don't see how anyone's experiencing that without some level of feedback that causes it to actually be to match the reality of what they're looking at and what they're feeling. Like, I don't want to be the Debbie Downer, but I feel like the answer every time is cope. Someone's coping.
There was that huge bubble of just like negative commentary from all the big content creators, and like a lot of the community chimed in and made like a big echo chamber. And even from like, if you're a casual player looking in and you're seeing all these people being unhappy, people are going to get swayed by the opinions, even if they might not think so. So I think there was just like a kind of a perfect storm at the beginning of the league that caused these issues to really happen and caused retention to really suffer.
Yeah, I remember talking about that. I'm glad you said that, because I remember I made a video early on. I don't consider Dawn of the Hunt a league, and if I recall, GGG didn't consider Dawn of the Hunt a real league themselves. Wisp weren't a league mechanic. There was just an economy reset with a 0.2 patch, but in terms of it being a real league, like, there was no new endgame content added in this patch except for like a few new maps having different endgame bosses, which was like the two witches fighting each other and stuff. But there was zero new pinnacle content, and a majority of that pinnacle content got nerfed to make it easier to access. So in terms of like it being a league, like it was not a league. It was just an economy way. So 0.2 definitely it had different, like, it had bigger expectations going into it, and there was just no, like, there's nothing new to do in it. If you had already done the end game and you're a one build person, when you got to end game in Dawn of the Hunt and you had just full cleared the Atlas in 0.1, it's the exact same Atlas in 0.2. You got to kill Breach Boss 4 times, you got to clear Simulacrum 4 times, like that. Okay, and then you got to kill Arbiter 4 times. Mixed in with like the fact that this league is just the inflation we have reached at this point. Like, I don't know if you've heard this term before. My viewers call it the Mouthfeel effect. Whenever like you do a random build and then like the items in its price skyrocket. This happens it's happened to me quite a few times. In Dawn of the Hunt, it's happened to me twice. It happened to me and Rabbit when we did the Vertex build. That was like a 1 Exalt item. We both released builds with, I think, Ulf at the same time using that helmet, and that went from 1 Exalt to like 40 Divines. And then with my Arctic...
Huh? What? I took this item that could be used as the staple of a build, and then I put it out as a build maker, and suddenly everybody copied my work, and then after they copied my work, this item skyrocketed in value, and now I couldn't make money off it. What? That's so weird. How'd that happen? We play in a league that's designed around trying to be first and be constant, and all of a sudden, all of our money dries up. We can't make money, we can't find things, we can't farm things, we don't know how to do it without having to make money off other people. What? If there is ever a thing that gives me a reason to not just be a person who churns out build after build, it is that right there. How can you play trade and then get mad when the literal catharsis point of trade happens, like you don't know that it's going to happen every single time? Of course they treated Dawn of the Hunt as a economy reset. You need to test new shit. New shit's being played. New shit's being offered. New build opportunities are being provided. How do you do that in a economy that has been stabilized or has been inflated out of the wingway, while people are still having difficulty putting certain builds online to begin with. They don't get the ability to have that. They don't get the ability to experience it. To them, the fun thing that they want to do, they can't do because they're poor. They're broke. How do they get from zero money to all the exalts and all the divines and all the experienced content crafts? They can't. And you'll have lied to them. You will have lied to them because of it. That's what causes that problem to happen. Huh? What a silly perspective. What a silly fucking perspective to have.
Armor build that was a 1 exalt Prism of Belief, and now it's 60 divines. So like right now the inflation is just like if there was a 0.22 patch right now with like a huge balance rework, if you were someone coming back, you would not be able to afford it. I got 23 divines in my name right now. I can't afford anything that's good. So there's a lot of...
What's good? In a game with experimentation being high, what's good? You mean dependable? How do you know what's dependable?
factors with this league, and I'm yeah, there's a lot going on with 022, but I don't know if I would call it an actual league though myself, because nothing changed. It was a build maker's paradise. This is why we played so long, is because it changed every single build at its core and then gave us a bunch of new builds. So it was really just a way for us to like have fun, us specifically being build makers. But
us specifically, the build makers, the veteran players of the game, we were allowed to have fun. All the new people, fuck them. That's an inherently selfish worldview. The game does not exist just for one type of person.
I get why so many others quit really quickly, because it was relatively the same game.
No, they quit because they're not even making fun. They quit because they can't make progress, dude. They quit because they can't make progress. They cannot make progress. They cannot make forward progress because they're being expected to understand science. And they don't have the ability to understand science. Because they're not scientists. That's what the problem was about Exile 1. You simplified this in Exile 2. Then you fucking complexized it. That's not a word, but that's the closest I can get to explaining that. We made it harder to play the game, not easier. Because suddenly, if your build doesn't trivialize all content, then your build is bad. It's so stupid. You create the problem, and then you try to sell the solution.
And I think with the inflation part of things, it really, a big part of it had to do with the cash that we had in between, where it kind of buffed a lot of the drop rates, and that kind of made the inflation feel even worse. And
No. What created inflation was you giving people FOMO. You gave them FOMO. You told them, this doesn't matter, this doesn't matter, this doesn't matter, this doesn't matter, this doesn't matter. And with seemingly nothing to use as their barometer of excess, they were punished excessively. Excessively. For not already having invented or designed a build that trivialized content automatically for them. With that being the complexity, it left little to no opportunity for others to be provided an opportunity. And that in and of itself hurt everyone. Other people can't be able to have a chance because you're fucking them in the ass. They don't get to experience the opportunity because it's kept from them. And then with all opportunities being stolen from them, they can't do shit with it. So they have no upward mobility. It's like all the problems that already happen in a normal economy, but worse. Hi, Tusky.
I think I would compare that we used to have exalts pretty much as the main currency, I guess, like the standard. Later in the league, you'll shift to chaos, but then with that big shift, I think that exalts really feel like alts for POE1 now, whereas chaos now for both teams are probably standard, and we'll probably see that reflected and feel a little bit better in terms of inflation.
The money is the money based on the money because the money is the money. The money of POE2 is exalted because your roles matter. If roles didn't matter, it wouldn't be the basis. But roles matter, so it is the basis. Without a strong economy, in order to create what you need, you are at the consequence of your curb. Because what you want isn't what you get. So, if what you want is the opportunity to do something different, you don't get the opportunity to do that. It's not provided to you. Instead, end up with is a little to nothing in terms of viability or power. And then you're just at the mercy of whatever else is left to the scrap in the middle. Because if your ability to make content is entirely revolved around whether or not you're having fun trivializing a build, then you're not having fun. Because you're getting fucked in the ass. All of your fun doesn't exist. Can't be provided to you at minimum. This is the first problem. Then, when you get to the point where you want to try to make something different, you're not allowed to either. Because then, all your opportunities are meant to be provided from the basis of whether or not the build can be trivialized or not. Not whether or not the build does something interesting and unique. Which in and of itself creates the feedback loop that causes the frustration that you're already going to feel because you feel like you're getting cheated. And in some cases, people will be cheated. Just by nature. Just by nature, they'll feel like they're cheated. And who's to say that they're not cheated? Who's to say that they aren't getting fucked? They don't know what's good. They need you to tell them. But unfortunately, you can't tell them what's good. Because even you don't know what's good.
I think that's a good point. How I had a little bit of a not like controversial opinion on that whole thing about like patching the unique drop rates. I don't know. You said earlier, Caltorek, that we're playing a little bit different games, so I would be interested in your guys' opinion on that one as well. I don't think that was a good change. I don't think that was a good change. Any T0, for me, always the root of every ARPG for me is loot hunting. I think for me, ARPGs have always been dopamine receptor hitters. It should always be exciting to loot certain stuff. I'm pretty sure they're going to go back on those changes because having every single unique in the game being basically worthless, except if it's vault in a good way, or if it's actually something that is not farmable like that, like Temporalis, for example.
No. It feels bad when every single item you want to use effectively doesn't exist unless you decide to take it up the ass. That's the fair point. And that's a fair assessment. It feels bad if I'm getting fucked in the ass because I'm looking for the deepest tower and I can't find, I can't break, and I can't make a deepest tower. Because the only way to find a deepest tower is to drop it. That feels bad. I feel like I'm being punished for the crime of being unlucky. Because if that's my fucking chase unique, I'm chasing it for the entire league. And whenever that item finally drops is when I'm finally allowed to have fun. That doesn't feel good. Oh, forgery. It doesn't feel good. And because it doesn't feel good, I feel like I'm being punished. I don't want to be punished. I want to have fun. But I can't have fun. I can't find my item. It's gone. Face the loop a couple thousand billion times, and eventually you're going to ask, well, what the fuck do I got to do in order to have fun? More or less, the game says, sell your fucking virgin child. And that's not really a reaction. It's not really a choice. It can feel like it's a choice. It's not a choice. Having power, getting to choose how I interact with the content, that doesn't exist.
In my personal opinion, that is very bad. I lost a lot of motivation for mapping, for the, like general loot hunting in general when that thing hit, because Calandra's Touch is 4 divines now, I think. I think Calandra's Touch is like 1 div probably now. There's the first day that the change happened, there were 40 Calandra's Touch on the trade side, I think. I think 4 hours later was over 1,000. So I don't know if they messed something up with that patch, but I think rare loot, especially T0 unique, should be rare. I don't know if that's a controversial opinion. I don't personally think so. Yeah, I get that it's much better if you're a casual player. If you're an SSF player, it's much easier now to maybe even target certain builds because the uniques are much more accessible now. But as someone who's playing the game mainly as like a loot hunter, and I want my dopamine, and I want to be like, oh my god, I dropped an Astrumentus. If I play right now and I drop an Astrumentus right now, there's no excitement, unfortunately, and I think that takes away a lot from what an ARPG should be. I'm pretty sure they're gonna go back on that though. I would be interested in what you guys think as guys who are not as degenerate as me, I would say.
I'm pretty degenerate. I do agree with one thing you said, that when the patch came out, there felt like an almost immediate less need to grind. I do have those like white whale items, and for me it was always Chernobog Shield. Chernobog was it scales perfectly with all my reflect builds. It works like it's the more damage modifier, so it just works perfectly with Scavenge Blade. And for me, it was always my dream Thorns item, right? I always wanted a Chernobog, and in 0.2, I didn't think I was ever going to get one because I was sitting at around 60 Divine for a bad one, and it was like 200 Divine for a good one. And you're going to want a good one with my build. And so that was always like a chase item for me. It's like one day you're going to have like that big pop-off moment where I finally get my first Chernobog, and then I get to have this crazy league where I use Chernobog. And then they released this patch, and it was one Divine that day. And I got to play with Chernobog in 50 builds. So that dopamine, I promise you, I'm not lying when I say this, there was initial sadness with that. I was like, oh, I already got my chase unique. Okay, but then I got to use that unique in 7 builds this week. So when I think about it from a game designer's perspective, if I was GGG, having these uniques have a lower job rate right now means there are more people like me, you, Miso, who are build creators who are going to balance test these builds for us. Because I was not testing Chernobog before. There are plenty of uniques like Calendar's Trust I would never be able to test before. There's still some that I can't test, like, but I think it depends on what their thought process was with the increased drop rate. Were they wanting to get it into more people's hands so we can test them from a balanced design point? Then that makes sense, and then I agree that it will be reverted. But I agree with everything you basically just said. That Chernobog was my like white whale. Like that's the pinnacle Thorns item. You get a Chernobog with a Vow with a high block chance. That is the perfect Thorns item. And now it's super common. Maybe that's how it should be. I don't know. But I did have that chase item, and I stopped grinding. The moment that patch came out, I stopped doing my Divine hunt because that was my big chase for Divine. That was the reason I was logging in and spamming mats every day, was because I wanted my Chernobog, and I was going to see, is this the league I was going to be able to afford it? And yeah, I have not been grinding mats. I've been making new characters since that patch. It was like, well, now I'll just try out all the new builds and stuff.
What I just say? I'm sorry, most people don't want to sit there and do that forever. That's not fun to them. The children long for something more. They long for something more.
So, yeah, I agree with both of what you just said. I do hope that they revert some of them, but it just depends on their logic, because I do think that, like, I've tested so many new builds since that patch, so.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it really is just about, I think, for me, it really is about, like, a balance. Like, I think that you can see both sides of the coin, where it's like, some people are like, hey, because Path of Exile is kind of trying to be that game that caters a little bit more to at least every type of person playing the game and trying to open it up to these more newer players, more casual players. So it makes sense that they want some of these items to be obtainable. And at the end of the day, it's, I think, about finding that sweet spot, right? Maybe this league, they buffed it a little bit too much, so next league, they'll move it a little bit back more. I agree that you shouldn't have items where you're basically never going to get them, but at the same time, you do want chase items. And I think at the same time, we also might have a little bit of recency bias as well, where right now, in the state of like inflation, it's the end of the league, there's a lot of items in the market, and, you know, that makes certain items that were expensive a lot cheaper. I do remember Headhunter actually getting more expensive, actually, after that buff. And then now it's way cheaper. Astrumentus also didn't drop like a significant amount at the beginning, right when that patch dropped, and then now it's way cheaper. I think hopefully we'll see a little bit more about how it actually shapes up to be in 0.3, and maybe they will do some adjustments during that patch as well. We'll have to see, but it really is, I think, a balance of finding the middle ground where you are going to have these chase uniques that do feel good to find, but at the same time, you're going to have people who can actually obtain them by playing a no amount of hours, as opposed to us degenerates who are playing the game so much every single day.
I just think Diablo 2 had it down. I think why most people still... I know I am going back to Diablo 2. I hate it too.
I imagine this is going to be a reference point a lot on this podcast. So, you know, yeah. Diablo 2.
I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. I'm gonna
Don't be sorry. As well. Don't be sorry.
I just think that, and I think a lot of people at GGG think the same as I will say right now. I think the loot system in Diablo 2 is probably the most perfect any loot system in any ARPG has ever been. Because I played Diablo 2 for 20 years. I did the Holy Grail challenge. I did everything. It was always in that certain spot where you did get some of the items that you were looking for. Like, I don't know if you guys played Diablo 2, but there was stuff like Tyrael's Might, Griffin's Eye, like stuff that was super, super rare.
Tyrael's Might, Griffin's Eye. I'm just gonna open the fucking wiki myself. Yep, that's exactly what I'm looking for. It's even Diablo 2 Resurrected, but technically I want Ariat Summit, but this is fine. This is the same thing. Cough, cough. Yes, show me uniques. Spirit, Edge, Ancient's Pledge, Smoke, Voice of Region, Hand of Justice, Hustle, Beast, Bramble, Pattern, Cure, Duress, Wrath, Kingslayer, Plague, Stealth, Last Wish, Oath, Venom, Heart of the Oak, Dream, Lore, Infinity, Eternity, Malice, Fury, Crescent Moon, Peace, Call to Arms, Faith, Mosaic, Death, Chaos, Grief, Breath of the Dying, Ice, Fortitude, Delirium, Stone, Gloom, Radiance, Harmony, Rift, Enigma, Lord, have mercy, these Jaws and these Bears and these Zods, Radiance, Dragon, Melody, Bulwark, Flickering Flame, Lawbringer, Rain, Destruction, Wisdom, Obedience, Bone, Chains of Honor, Exile, Brand, Mist, Memory, White, Obsession, Treachery, Metamorphosis, Principle, Strength, Doom, Holy Thunder, Rhyme, Phoenix, Unbending Will, Temper, Famine, Splendor, Lion's Heart, Passion, Leaf, Enlightenment, Zephyr, Steel, Prudence, King's Grace, Hellrack, Neuron Master, Blackhorn's Face, Tomb Reaver, Blood Raven's Charge, Deathclear, Boneflame, Berzardo's Cananon, Twitch Throw, Rust Handle, Wolfhamen, Dariel's Visage, Alma Negra, Scolders Isle, Wild Husk, Kira's Guardians, Raven's Frost, the Hellfire's Torch, the Annalish Charm, Geed's Fortune, Nagalreen, Lance Guard, Ormus's Robes, Homunculus, Umbral Disc, Goldstrike Arch, Harlequin Shaco, Harlequin Quest if you're being accurate with the name of the character, or the name of the held piece. And just out of Helms alone, Harlequin's Quest, Griffin's Eye, Darkside Helm, and Dariel's Visage, Demon Horn's Edge, Nightwing's Veil, Peasant's Crown, Giant Skull, The Face of Horror, Crown of Ages, Worm Skull, Veil of Steel. If we're talking just basic magic find, Sandstorm's Trek, period. Waterwalk, Inferno Stride, Gore Rider, Treads of Salon, War Traveler, Gorefoot, Marrowwalk. Are we talking rings? Take your fucking pick, bro. Carrion Wind, Ravenfrost, Nigel, the Storm of Orden, Bull Kathos' Wedding Band, Mundal Heal, Nature's Peace, Wiz Projector, Dwarf Sonar. Technically, we're talking Stone of Jordan, we're talking Bull Kathos. Assuming we're talking about life over time and life stolen on hit. Otherwise, it's a case of just spamming Stones of Jordan because it's O skill. Well, shields. Want to talk shields? Lidless Wall, Spike Thorn, Lance Guard, Storm Shield, Spirit Ward, Gurk's Sanctum, Headhunter's Glory, Medusa's Gaze, Radiment's Spear, The Ward, Eye of the Walless, or excuse me, Wall of the Eyeless. And if we want to be accurate, where's Zakharum's shields? Held of Zakharum, Paladin only, Sucketed with Zod. There's so many worlds of difference between us and them. And that's that we don't necessarily have best in slot items that just say +4 to your slot. We had to power farm for these things. And some of these were ladder only. So, what are we talking about? People want to do 2,400 hour grinds? You want to play for 3 months? Looking for one item? One item! A slot! To fill 12! And you're mercenary! What are we talking about? What are we talking about?
But you still, for some reason, every few months or every few leagues or something, Diablo had a seasonal approach as well. Every few ladder resets, you had at least that 1 or 2 or 3 moments every few weeks where you did get a Stone of Jordan, or where you did get a Griffin's Eye or whatever. And it was always, I can't really put it into like factual statements, but it just felt perfect in a way that it was rare enough to not be unexciting when you actually got it, but still was every single time, but you still had the experience, if that makes sense. And if they can find that balance, and I think they are on their way, I think it was probably just a test and they wanted to see, and I have kind of the inkling that they did already adjust a little bit on the unique drops in the back end, because a lot of people have been saying in my stream that on the first few days it seemed insane. They were dropping T0 uniques like every few hours or whatever, and now it already seems a little bit lower, but of course the effect is still felt on the trade side. So if they manage to find that balancing at some point that my favorite game of all time had, it's gonna be amazing. And I think a lot of GGG, and it's very apparent what this game is modeled after, I think they are looking for that too, and that is also why I'm very hopeful. Because yeah, why not look at a game that it's still alive after 20 years?
Yeah.
More than 20 years.
Last week I had this moment.
Well, it's not quite alive. It's there. There's a difference between the two. A game that is alive is a game that is alive. As in, it's alive! It's alive and it's making money! Oh, the content, the content, the content, the content! It's not quite there. It exists. At best.
Where so this exact like dopamine just like turn off happened to me last week where I was doing a Citadel map and then I dropped a Headhunter and a Alpha's Howl like basically back to back. I'm like, oh my god, this is crazy! I finally got some money. I'm always poor. And then I check the trade side and they're like two divine, 3 divine. I'm like, god damn it. And it has the tick too.
You gotta hit it with the Val Orb.
I did, and it didn't do well.
Well. Yeah. Should we move on though on the topic? Probably, right?
Yeah. Let's talk about Dawn of the Hunt now. This was just our general thoughts on POE2, but Dawn of the Hunt. What are your guys' thoughts on Dawn of the Hunt as a whole, looking back on the league? When I look,
perfect, literally perfect. Everything that's supposed to happen happened. Literally perfect. Nothing can make it worse. If we move away from that design, it's a mistake. I just have to lose value here. It's either lose value or I die.
Look back on it and the balance overhaul. People say that the build diversity is a problem in this league. To me, the build diversity leveled up so much from one.
It's not build diversity, it's build viability. It doesn't matter how different my build is if I can't fucking play the game. Period. That's what matters. Synergy does not matter as much as actual efficiency, and efficacy doesn't matter if you have no synergy. How do I make a build if I ain't got no money? Where do I get my money from, bro? Bro, where do I get money? I need money. I need content. I need food. I need water. I can't breathe. I'm dying underneath the weight of my own build's inability to farm. I get to endgame and it's like, bro, what the fuck? I was told the game was broken. Nice.
The two that like as a build creator who's like done so many builds, like there's still so many I haven't tested yet. Obviously it's not as good as POE1 and these other games, but I had a lot of fun with this league. I do think that if that balance patch that released that fixed the drop rates, if that was what 0.2 had launched with, this league would have had a much different reception. It's hard looking back on Dawn of the Hunt because that first month of the league was utter chaos. My comments were just full of like the most insane hate watchers of not me, but Path of Exile 2. It's like every big creator was blasting the state of.
You made a series of jokes where you said that the game was bad and the game sucks. When you tell people that the game is bad and game sucks constantly, they will take your word for it and they will not ever accept any other answer. You made it a meme to hate the game, and so they followed the meme. And you're mad that they followed the meme? But what? Come on! Use your heads. Use your heads, please. Use your fucking heads. It's so fucking obvious. Use your heads. Please use your heads. I lose value there, but it's okay.
Of the game, and then it was just chaos. Like to me, the game never felt that bad. I've always had fun with it for the most part, and I felt like if we had a fresh economy with the 0.21 patch, this league would have had a much different reception. What are your guys' thoughts on the state of Dawn of the Hunt, looking back on it?
Go ahead, Rabbit. You start.
I can start. We definitely had, like, just staying in the lane of, like, build diversity, I think we definitely went off to a rough start. I do agree that if we would have started with the 0.21 patch, which fixed a lot of the problems that were very apparent in the start of the Dawn of the Hunt League, but they were just too late. The 0.21 patch was already at a stage where most people were already, like, gone, waiting for the POE1 League and stuff. If we had launched with that, like you said as well, I think the league would have looked massively different. Not only the unique item drop changes, but also the new uniques we've gotten. I think there were a few in there that really show what they are wanting to go for in the future with some of the new uniques. And it would have definitely opened up build diversity. It is, of course, it is not a hot take to say here that Lightning Spear was the dominant factor in all of this league here, and what made people so adamant about, oh, there's only one build you should play, or this is just the only build that anyone could play. Yes, it is a very good build. I was thinking about doing like a funny tier list of builds.
One skill is not a build. Then again, you try hard enough, you can make it one. Try hard enough, you can make it one. Hey, yo. If you try hard enough, you can make anything goddamn build. But one skill is not a build. It's very strong, powerful technique. Doesn't make it a fucking one-button build. But hey, what do I know? I'm just some dumb chud.
Builds, yes, it is an S+ tier build. The build diversity in this league is actually really good. It is extremely, extremely good. In 0.1, there were not even half the builds where you could easily do all content with a certain investment or whatever. Not even half. People still say that in 0.1, for some reason, the build diversity was more. I heavily disagree. In 0.1, there was Sparks, the Spark dominance was high, there was Tempest Flurry, and there was a few more, yes, but the build diversity in here is so much better. If in the 0.2 patch, the build diversity would be less than the previous patch, I would be worried about the state of the game. I would be worried if we take steps backwards, actually, in terms of build diversity. That would be very, very bad. I hope that in 0.3 we will have even more build diversity, and then in 0.4 we have more build diversity, and then in 0.5 we have more build diversity. That is how the game is supposed to go. If you're saying there's no build diversity and Lightning Spear is the only build you can play to actually have fun playing the game, that is extremely wrong. I'm sorry. It is very wrong. Me alone, I have made, I don't know how many, 10 plus very different builds this league. Some of them I did myself, most of them were inspired by other builds and stuff, and I had a build inspired by your Wind Dancer build where I went for the 5 Dancer approach, the one for example. And
that one,
builds, you know, yeah, exactly. And there was so much build diversity. There's still much more to go. It is absolutely, I think that problem not relies on like there's no build diversity. It's just that everyone wants to play the best build. And I get that. Everyone wants to play the best build. And if you just want to open up the game, you want to one-shot T4 Zash and you want no problems doing T4 Simulacrum, yes, you go Lightning Spear. And I don't disagree with that you want to play the best build. But don't complain about build diversity then. The build diversity does exist. You can play like
correct. It's build viability. It's build viability. If you don't have build viability, it doesn't matter how many diverse builds you have, if everybody does not actually have recognition to show that it's possible. Because the problem is that you're trying to chase broken interactions. Sometimes bugged interactions. Isn't that right, Rue? Isn't that right? Complaining to the point where even our best fucking racer tie killer has to tell you to your face, you're acting like a retard. There's no build to use. Man, this build's so busted. I don't press any buttons and I clear everything on the map. Oh no, my build's been nerfed to the ground. I have nothing to play. Now it's just me and 50 of my builds all featured on fucking Max Roll and Mobalytics and Path of Exile builds 1 and 2.com. I can't make anything, I can't build anything, everything's too expensive. Never mind the fact I'm sitting on miles and miles of money that I'm not liquidating. Store clauses full of potential build items, but I don't use any of them, I just stack them. Making up builds that I don't love, giving to people to views and subs. Fucking hell, man. The only correct reaction is mockery. It's the only correct reaction. It's solely just because of the fucking cope it provides.
Lightning Spear all you want, but the build diversity exists. You cannot play Lightning Spear and then complain about how there's no build diversity and the game sucks. No, you choose that you only want to play this build. And it's totally fine. I just chose not to play Lightning Spear because I'm a hipster. Like, it's fine. Everyone can do whatever they want. I just disagree with the notion that there's no build diversity just because one build is dominating.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think you hit the nail on the head in saying that everybody wants to play the best build. And how I describe it is Lightning Spear is the de facto best build this league, right? It's the best skill, best build. And the big difference between point 1 and point 2 is that in point 1, there were probably 3 or 4 best builds, as opposed to this season where there's one best build. But how I describe it is that Lightning Spear is a double S tier build or something like that, right? Yes. And then last season, the double S tier builds were probably like, like Ice Strike with the hit double Herald stuff. And double Heralds in general just like carried last league. So if you played double Heralds on anything, it was kind of like a double S tier build. So basically, Ice Strike, double Heralds. You had like the Spark stuff. You had the cast on whatever comets. You had basically like, I'd say probably like 3 to 5 double S tier builds, but like pretty much like 1 or 2 or maybe even 0 S tier builds. And then everything else was an E tier build or below. Whereas this season, I'd say there's 1 double S tier, but then there's like, 10 plus, S tier builds. So it's like at the tippy top where everybody likes to play, there's only 1 build. But right below that, there's actually a lot of build diversity that people aren't exploring, which is why people feel like there's only 1 build, because everybody wants to play the double S tier build. And last season there were a couple of those, whereas this season there's really only 1. So I think that really is the reason why there is this huge discrepancy with people like us who are build makers, who have made these builds, who are trying out all this different stuff. So we can see that, hey, there's actually some builds out there that are actually really good, whereas a lot of the general population of who play Path of Exile 2 probably go online just look for like best builds of, patch 0.2.
Correct!
Best builds of Dawn of the Hunt, and they see Lightning Spear up there, they play that, and then they don't play anything else because, why would you play a build that's not met, like, the top tier? And I understand that. I have friends who are of the same mindset who say, like, hey, there's only 1 build, why would I not play something that's, like, the best? Why would I handicap myself and play something that's not the best? And
so you can have fun. Because if your ability to have fun is I optimize the game and now I'm not able to enjoy what I'm doing, that's your fault. Point down. That's what they call them. There you go.
To that, again, it's like what you guys said. Hey, it's your choice, right? If you only want to play the best build, do it. But then don't complain that there's, no build diversity. If you're just volunteering to not play the second most powerful build or third most powerful build or something like that.
Yeah, that's my problem with the best discussion, is it doesn't mean best. It means, like, highest mathematical number. To me, when, like, I like the tier list discussions because it's the best way to at least kind of visualize what you mean. An S tier build, whether it's S- to S+, or S++, if it's an S rank, it can clear all content in the game. That is an S tier build to me. Now, if you think that you only want to...
Technically, you shouldn't be calling it a letter grade. What you should be doing is you should be calling it what it is, which is a rainbow build. It has a opportunity to do something, because a build means it's something I built towards. Because build really just means loadout. A build means I have built this. I built this to do X. Example, if your particular choice of skill, okay, you've chosen for the lead, and your build that makes something around this archetype you're playing, my bow build, my axe build, my sword build, my spell build, my fire spell build, my lightning fire spell build, my lightning fire ice orb spell build, my poison build, my poison bow build, my poison spell bow trigger trap build is designed to do X, Y, and Z and can't do A, B, and C. By choosing a choice, I have chosen something I didn't want. In order to get omens, to make items, to craft them better, to create bases that can then be specialized into, you have to do ritual. If I build a build designed to do ritual, more than likely it can't do delirium. Why? Because delirium is scaling damage and overwhelming levels of issues and difficulties. Excuse me. If I build for survivability, I didn't build for clear speed. So, not only did I not build to do delirium, probably can't do breach either. Considering the middle, this provides a lot of different opportunities. Most of which come down to the opportunity. As well as the chance. Fucking lick spittle in the morning, bro. Anyways. Considering the middle, and for all the opportunities I could have done something for, but that I didn't do, my ability to scale quadratically decreases the more I have to depend on linear sources. And thus, if a particular item I require to create quadratic scaling in my build is locked behind a particular door of content, or is a random drop, such as the deepest tower, that must be found randomly as a tiered unique, and we do not have a basic breakdown of which uniques are tiered and which are not, which are more difficult to get versus which are easier to get, and we do not create multiple ways to find said material, we are asking people to figure out something that plays towards the middle. Because if what you want is for something that does something, you'd play one build and you'd completely be bored. Or, if we're being honest, you'd play one build and you wouldn't play any other build because that build is now your leaf starter that is funding all of the rest of the materials you need in order to make other builds possible. You gotta play the lightning spear, quote, because once you've played the lightning spear, you now have the opportunity to consider the middle. So, yes, lightning spear is great, but have you considered cold infusion? Did you consider chaos infusion? Did you consider using spears without a buckler? Did you consider using spears with a shrine buff permanently in your hand as a scepter? Did you consider corrupting them to get the chaos version and using it with the chaos spear? And now you've got chaos infusions as an Amazon, throwing them at people's heads constantly. Did you go ritualist? Did you consider double ritual buffs? Did you consider double stacking with pin, to poison and pin at the same time with physical. Then scaling off a bleed, scaling physical, bleed, poison, movement, hinderment, and considering making the enemy into a pin cushion. With or without permanent pinning status from Bushwhack. Doing these things requires materials and loot to get there. They can't get there if they don't even have an SSF build that straightforward says, here's something you can use. Here's another thing you can use. Here's another thing you can use. And as it came from the word of GGG, they already said they don't want them telling you what to do and what to play, but they're more than happy with us telling them. So, if they're happy with us saying what you should do, maybe, considering the middle should be the job, instead of just forgetting that there are a bunch of other people who play this game that don't like playing that way. Maybe? Kinda? Sorta? No? Damn, I can't believe we didn't consider the middle. Again! I wonder why there's people who keep saying the game is hard, despite the fact that the game is not hard. Blech. Five stone cards. I didn't think that'd be that strong.
To play S++ builds, and S- builds don't work for you. Like, to me, that doesn't compute, because an S- build will still one-shot all content. It's just not as crazy as, like, the S++ build. But to me, an S tier build is a build that can do tier 4 of everything. You can clear the entire game. There's not a single bit of content you can't do. And I think there are plenty of builds that qualify for that. But just ignoring that part of the conversation, I'm someone who I consider myself, like, most of my builds fall in the A tier range. It's very rare that I qualify one of my builds as an S tier range. Looking at 0.1 to 0.2 as an A tier Andy, we got so many more A tier builds. Like, so many more, like yes, I agree completely with that. Of the dominant builds, it's really only Lightning Spear. Like, if you can, doing it on a budget at least. There are other builds that can compete, that are more expensive. Lightning Spear is very cheap. I think Lightning Arrow is very comparable. It's not as, it does everything Lightning Spear does, right? Like, I don't see them as any different in my head, but Lightning Spear is just so cheap. But as someone who runs in the A tier space usually, I think the amount of A tier builds more than quadrupled. So many really bad skills became viable up to, like, clearing tier 4 Brecht. Like, an A tier build to me can clear most tier 3 to tier 4 builds, but struggle with Simulacrum. Simulacrum is, like, really hard for a lot of A tier builds usually.
Because Simulacrum is just hard in general. Simulacrum is just hard. By design, but it's hard. Not everybody can pull fucking 3 to 4 million damage out of their ass when they've been getting fucked in the ass for the majority of the game state. That's just normal. That's to be expected. We'll take it.
Because you have to invest so much into damage and stuff. You have to sacrifice survivability. But to me, this game leveled up a lot in that A tier to B tier range. And when GGG says that they're going into 0.3 focusing on low tier builds, that just makes me even more excited, because we're going to start seeing, like, even, like, I love, like, doing the bad skills and making them good. So we're going to start seeing all those get buffed. That's, like, great news to me. But when you're talking about the A tier range, and even the B tier range, I think a lot of builds did get leveled up as well. It's just, there's just, these people get trapped, I guess, in that mindset of, like, they see that S+++, and they're like, well, nothing else is viable then, because there's technically this gap between this and Lightning Arrow. So now Lightning Arrow is no longer viable, but they functionally, to me at least, operate the exact same way in what they can clear and can't clear, right? So that's a trap people put themselves into. If that's how you're going to look at the game, then yes, Lightning Spear is technically the only peak optimal build right now, but there are loads of builds in this game that can clear everything the exact same rate, the exact same power. It's just like, 40 million damage difference, but it's still one-shotting everything with the same survivability, right? So, I don't know. To me, it's not perfect. There's plenty of really bad skills. Like, there's so many really bad skills. But it's not as bad as 0.1. It leveled up a lot to me.
Yeah, heck, that's terrible.
Oh yeah, Hex Blast is one that went down for sure.
Hex Blast just functionally doesn't work because the rest of its body of content is not out yet. That's really all that is. Its body of work is not out yet, so it's suffering from having to consider the middle. This is probably death.
I was fighting for this league. My league starter was supposed to be a Chaos like build, and it ended up being a Chaos Lich with Essence Drain and Contagion. And when that Hex Blast thing hit, I was that is the one where I was very, very confused, because that just took away something that wasn't even good before, and it would have been so amazing for the build. The build ended up as being amazing anyway, but yeah, that was one where I was really confused about their decision making. And yeah, there's so much, like you said as well, there's still so many abilities and weapon skills that have untouched or untouched potential like that, and it's going to be exciting to see. But one other thing that I wanted to say on the Lightning Spear topic, there is always going to be a case for every single league where one build is going to be chosen by the community as the best build. Like as soon as one of the large now POE1 but also like part-time POE2 creators are going to be choosing as this is the actual build right now, it is always going to be the case. People don't want to feel like they're wasting their time, so they don't want to do the work. They want to put into Google. They want to put in. I see it on my YouTube statistics as well. The most searched thing on YouTube builds or on POE2 builds is always the most SEO thing is always going to be POE2 best build. That is the most searched thing on YouTube, and I don't fault people for that. You don't have the time most of the time to invest like I do for like actually searching out builds, trying to find my own way.
There is no such thing as investing the time into looking up builds and trying to find the best way and the best path towards material and content. It is a question that begs an answer. Do you want to play the game? That's it. There's nothing else. Do you want to play the game, yes or no? If you want to play the game, nothing's going to stop you from looking up that build. Nothing's going to stop you from trying that build. Nothing's going to stop you from playing the game on a fundamental level. Do you want to play the game? If you want to play the game, you're playing the game. If you don't want to play the game, and you want somebody to just tell you what your best choice is, then stop lying to yourself. You know exactly what it is you want. You know exactly what it is you want to get. You know exactly what it is you're trying to do. Like, don't fake the funk. Because faking the funk is what makes people unhappy.
Way hopping for like 3 hours for the Thor Murder build. Literally, that's why I said that in the video for the Thor build. Yeah, I was locked in the kitchen for the last 12 hours. I get that people don't have the time. People don't want their time wasted, so they want to Google best build and they want to play the build. That is always going to be a factor. It was just a little bit too much this league with Lightning Spear being this good. You basically only need Tangle Tongue and then you're good. But yeah, it's just another.
We'll talk about Tangle Tongue later. Don't worry.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with Tangle Tongue. It's just an example of a efficiency issue. When you have a skill that is so damn powerful that all the opportunity to use that skill hinges itself on the nature of how that skill functions, it is a world of difference between, wow, I have no damage, and oh my god, bro, all I needed was crit, because crit overperforms. That's it. POE2 puts a lot more investment in your opportunity than in your lack of opportunity. You're being rewarded for putting in time and effort for increasing your object viability, rather than increasing your decrease of object viability. So at the end of the day, when you end up making that build for yourself, and you experience the sheer joy of having damage, of course you're going to say, bro, why would I want anything else? Like, what are you supposed to do? Say no? I would not like to do 12 million damage by having my crit multiplicatively increased? Hello? There's nothing wrong with the design. It's just that they don't have they don't have hunger. They don't have hunger. They don't see the viability. They don't see the vision. They cannot visualize the concept and the build. It's like playing a card game.
We got a crit topic later. We're gonna go ham on Tangle Tongue at some point.
Yeah, but overall, I mean, I think that this league was it was off to a rocky start, but if we had, like you guys said, right, if we had gone 0.21 as our league start, I do think that this league probably would have felt in people's minds a lot better. I think overall people felt that this league probably a lot of people leaning more on the negative side. But I think if we just take out that beginning portion and start looking at like the post Zizarin podcast patches, I think this league was actually a pretty good league.
So just really quickly, so if we were to get a 0.22, what is one thing you guys would want to see in that patch? Okay, obviously we got big changes coming for 0.
Poison. I want to see poison. I want to see poison across the entirety of the game state. I want poison to be a real concept. I want poison to be good. I want poison. I need chaos damage, physical and spell-based poison. Because if I don't have poison, I'm missing a lot of the thing that wants to keep me playing, which is methods outside of physical damage to beat the fuck out of my enemy.
.3, but if there was to be a 0.22, some last Dawn of the Hunt filler patch, what is something that would get you grinding again?
For that patch, especially, patch especially, it's going to be balance changes. I think if we would ask the same question for the 0.3 patch, I would say obviously more endgame content, more stuff for me to do in endgame. But for especially 0.22, it's just going to be balance changes. I want more skills to be better. I want you, Miso, to give it off to you at the next opportunity. You did a very, very good session of videos on YouTube over the past weeks, I think 2 weeks or something, where you did the shorts where you were discussing the abilities that need to be buffed. Basically abilities that are in the game right now. They look cool, they feel cool to use, but no one is using them because they absolutely suck. And that needs to be a point of improvement 100%. And I kind of feel like I know from as a non-game dev, it always feels super stupid to say stuff like that, but it kind of feels like an easy fix too. Just make it better. You don't need to nerf, Lightning Spear is probably going to get nerfed, or most likely Tango Tongue is going to get nerfed or something, but what I want the most is just make the other stuff a little bit better. You don't need to nerf the top end that much. Make the other stuff better. Lift it up. So, yeah, so.
I mean, 3 words. Spear of Solaris. I mean, yeah, it's the same thing. It's like over...
The joke doesn't land if nobody knows what the fuck you mean by Spear of Solaris. Realistically, the skill itself and the glory system needs a slight rework. It doesn't need to be nerfed. It doesn't need to be buffed. It needs to be reworked. You rework it, problem fixed.
Overall, just buffing up some of these not as great skills. Jonathan did say that was supposed to be the focus of 0.22. Buffing up some of these skills, especially when we're thinking about his changed, I guess, outlook of making it so that some of these combo skills are actually more viable as standalone skills. So being able to just get better, more viable skills would get me really, really excited for, starting it back up again and playing it a little bit more. Because right now, I don't really have too much motivation because that's basically all I do. I make builds, and I feel like it's kind of in not so great of a spot right now for making builds because as much diversity as we say there was, it would be nice if there's more. That way, I've already identified the ones that I'm like, oh, these are the ones I'm super excited, and then the rest of them I'm not excited, even though they're viable. I'm not as excited to build them. If they add more skills that are viable, then I'd be like, oh wow, there's this fresh pool of builds, and I'm like, oh, I'm actually interested in playing these skills and making builds out of them. So that overall is what I would like to see in 0.22 if they were to come out with one.
Yeah. I almost did a video the other day, because I saw I watched this video series too. You always pop up on my shorts. I need to get shorts off of my phone because I watch them too much. But I was thinking about doing a video about what I want from 0.22, and as I was thinking, you said from a game developer's perspective, why wouldn't you just buff stuff? They should just buff stuff early on. Why wouldn't you raise the number up early on? As long as someone can approve that number you're tweaking isn't going to break things mathematical at the top end, then yes, just tweak those numbers a little bit. At this point, what I'm thinking about it though is when you think about a balance overhaul, some of these abilities that are bad might be getting reworked. So to come in and number tweak them just temporarily, forget people playing that skill, and then suddenly the patch comes in 0.3 and the skill works very differently, scales differently, functions differently, that confuses players and stuff. So from the game developer's perspective, that's the only excuse I can give them is they have something coming soon that completely negates that specific buff. But I agree, there's just plenty of low performing skills that they could buff up, and that what would get me back to 0.22 is only a reason to level a new character. There's nothing they're going to they're not going to drop new pinnacle content that I can go and slam out on all of my old builds. That sounds weird at this point. It would only have to be balance changes that brought me back to level a new character. So at this point, I'm pretty checked out on the league. I just want to wait for either 0.22 for have some balance changes to level new stuff that can't be leveled right now, or I'm just going to wait for 0.33, which I'm starting to kind of believe that's where we're at, is GGG is waiting for 033. But since we're build makers, guys, let's talk about our favorite builds of this league. What is your favorite build of the league? I've played, I think,
I am a particular fan of my particular SSF experiment with the Blood Mage. Because it's consistent. You can run it every league and get it running every league. And every league it will always perform. That's extremely exciting to me. The ability to play something consistently and I get rewarded for being consistent. In a game where basically you're playing SSF from the beginning to the end. It's exciting.
13 different builds in endgame right now. I want to say it's really only like 7 different builds because 3 of them were Wind Dancer variations and like a handful of them were Thorns variations. But for me, my favorite build was my Wind Dancer build. It was the first Reflect build that I've been saying since like Thorns came out in 0.1 that I think Thorns long term, they're not going to look at it as a meme ability. Thorns is going to be something that enables builds like Crit does. It's like a stat that you can use to enable lots of different skills and you don't just think of it as a Reflect style, and Wind Dancer was the first Reflect build that I was able to full clear all content. It could handle Simulacrum, it could handle all maps, it could one-shot tier 4 Zetch, it could one-shot tier 4 Arbiter, because you could apply, the Wind Dancer was just the Reflect portion for mapping, and then you could just slot in any skill you wanted. I used it with Sunder, I used it with a couple other skills, and worked best with Sunder. But that was the build I was most excited about. I think it would be my Smitha Kataba or Titan version. It's easy to default to a Titan just because like Titan makes every build better, but it would be one of those Wind Dancer Reflect builds. It was a lot of fun to make. They buffed Wind Dancer from 0.1 to 0.2. I had Wind Dancer builds in 0.1, but really the only way you could scale it was through Heralds. Then using Herald Cheese, of course, which Micho talked about earlier, which I'm glad that's gone. But they changed Wind Dancer in 0.2 to where it scales directly, not just off of gem skill level, but it scales off of your weapons damage, and you're able to just use any weapon in your character, and that melee damage or whatever would scale directly for your Wind Dancer damage. And I enabled it to, with the crazy chaos chain poison explosions, become both an excellent AoE and mapping tool, as Dead Rabbit ended up pushing. Like, I'm not an optimizer, I just do goofy stuff. Dead Rabbit, he took that build and he optimized it to the next level. He dominated Simulacrum tier 4. They made it a really good idle build. So they just, like, Wind Dancer just got unlocked in that build, and it ended up being not just a Wind Dancer, like, Wind Dancer slotted with a lot of different skills. He did it with Plague Bearer, I did it with multiple skills, I've seen people do it on Monks, I've seen people do it on Mercenaries. It just ended up being a really versatile skill that I got to revisit from 0.1, and it's like the things I'm looking forward to with builds, right? Like, when you revisit a build from a previous patch, these are the evolutions you're wanting to see. Like, the build, like, I never expected Wind Dancer to evolve to the point it does, and these are the things I'm excited about for build making. So I guess, you know, when you have those satisfying, I call them aha moments, where it's like suddenly something clicks and like the build evolves to a new point, and I got that a lot with like evolving that Wind Dancer build from 0.1 to 0.2.
Yeah, you're gonna have a big part in Wind Dancer probably being nerfed for next patch, since it's the 3rd most used skill in the game right now. Herald of Thunder with 59% of all players using Herald of Thunder. Lightning Spear 50.
It's because since our damage is based on what we're doing in hand and we're using triggering effects, Herald of Frost, Herald of Ice, Herald of Thunder, Herald of Blood, Herald of Blood slotted with Poison, which is basically his Herald of Poison, Plague Bearer, they're all things that function on death. Granted, we're not using reshattering, retriggering, refreezing, but synergy. And especially considering that this was a League of Amazons. Synergy. I was told she could do it all. And so what? They're not finna do it? The hell? No, I'm gonna make her break something. I'm going to make her do poison. I'm gonna blow the entire map up. I'm gonna fart them. I'm gonna gas them. Just every single time. Right on top of their head. Just poop. Right on top of their head. And the enemy can't escape it. Because they can't do shit. It's funny. It's hilarious. Yeah.
46%, and right behind Lightning Spear is Wind Dancer. 42% of all builds are using Wind Dancer right now.
I blame Lightning Spear. Lightning Spear.
Yeah.
It's their fault.
It is not just the best defensive layer right now, but also, yeah, very, very good offensive layer right now. So if you're not using Wind Dancer, if you have the dexterity to use Wind Dancer, there's no reason not to use Wind Dancer. That's a good segue to my favorite build of the league as well. I am a little bit biased, obviously, because GGG for some weird reason decided to feature the build a few weeks ago.
Not
and
weird.
I was just laying in bed one morning and I opened my phone and I saw, oh damn, there's a build showcase for Dead Rabbit. Oh wait, this is the official Path of Exile account. And the next 2 hours I was just gobsmacked. So I am a little bit biased, but it is going to be my favorite build of the league, that the Dormione Titan. It was obviously not something that I just like completely invented myself. The whole process about that build was that before the 0.21 patch, there were already a few Mjolnir builds.
I'm being called. 1 second.
builds popping up on the Titan especially. I've seen double Mjolnir Gemling. I think Young Rowan did an Amazon with double Mjolnir, but they were...
Don't tell me about what Young Rowan does. Young Rowan is an example of why people think that Path of Exile 1 and 2 are not designed for normal people. He is actually the reason why people don't want to play the game.
All pretty underwhelming when it came mainly to single target damage. And the first version that I did on the build was with the Vertex Mask before the 0.21 patch, and that was based on first a Thai creator, I think Holiday was his name on YouTube, and also the Aste creator from the Korean scene. Really popularized the build, and I just did a slightly optimized version like you just said. I mainly also a lot of things that I do is optimizing builds and finding maybe new avenues to already existing builds. But then when the 0.21 patch hit, I actually went with the tech that I got from another build, which was the Deepest Tower tech, and I tried to do it on the Mjolnir build because most people that were playing the Mjolnir build were saying that it's impossible to do without the Vertex Mask. And the Vertex Mask, as soon as I removed the Vertex Mask and could go for the Deepest Tower, the build just went into the stratosphere because it not only made the mapping much easier because obviously of all the extra damage, but the mapping was not a problem before. What it then had was just one weapon swap into the Deepest Tower setup, not even any gear switching, not any skill damage switching, and that just made the build an absolute insanely good boss killer as well. So yeah, I'm obviously biased since GGG decided to feature that build. I was super happy. I was kind of surprised they featured that build because it's not a build that anyone can just pick up like that. It's something that I spent almost 2 days off stream, just like as soon as the update hit, I was just like I still remember I was talking to you, Kalturek, on Discord, like giving you like small updates on what I was like thinking about.
It's a crazy feeling, man.
Yeah, and then yeah, it just kind of clicked, and it was amazing. I mean, we have 2 people right now in the call right here that have the 2 build showcases. No, there was a third build showcase just now. The fight.
Miso got an honorable mention, so I like to throw that one out there.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
funny you said that you were surprised at your build. At least your build's good. The build they featured from me, they could only do Waystone 15. They couldn't do political content. I was so shocked when they featured that bad build.
I was surprised though because it couldn't have been my build because their Mjolnir wasn't vault, so couldn't have been my build. I don't do. If an item doesn't say corrupted on top on the bottom, it's not an item. I'm sorry, it just isn't.
That's fair. I'm a coward. I don't bow.
I don't value. I don't ball either. Like, well, I mean, sometimes I do, but in general, I think it's the difference is that one of us on this call usually has a lot more currency than the other 2. Let's just say that's probably the reason why the risks are.
Balls are so easy to get. What are you talking about? Balls are literally candy. Because you're not using them. That's the point of an item that has risk. You don't fucking gamble if you can't afford it. That's how you stay broke.
Are a little bit lower when you just buy another one and replace it, compared to us, which we've probably spent the entire league probably farming up that one item.
Yeah, it means I go start a new character if I foul something bad.
Pretty much. But for me, my favorite build, again, Asta, that guy, crazy stuff.
Legend.
Yes, absolute legend. Because my
super
favorite
nice guy as well.
Also, wait, have you talked to him?
Yes, I made sure I had someone in my chat who's also frequenting his chat a lot, who is Korean speaking. I actually had that person ask Aste a lot of stuff in Korean because I kind of felt a little bit at a certain point. I like 3 builds in a row that were based on Aste, so I was kind of like, can you maybe ask him if that is if what I'm doing is kind of fine and if he has anything to say, because I kind of felt bad but I was just like, yeah, he's doing amazing builds, and you have to mention as well he does a lot of optimizing as well. There was a lot of stuff that he got from other creators as well, and he then optimized. So that is just a normal process in this type of game space. What I wanted to say is he's an amazing guy. He said to the other person, he said as well, like it's all good. That is amazing to him. He wants this stuff to happen. He loves the POE2 community, and he's just an amazing guy all around. Like I wish I had the brain capacity, like 5% of his brain capacity, because he really finds extremely good stuff in already existing builds or just start stuff from scratch. So whenever I came into his stream, I was the only English comment. I went hi, and he went out of Korean to say one sentence in English to me. So it was always very good.
That's
I think I can call him my friend, right, Aste?
I'm jealous. I want to be his friend too. And I mean, I think that's
friend of the pod.
I think that's one of the coolest things about Path of Exile. Like, I feel like, or Path of Exile 2, I feel like in Path of Exile 1, at least I've heard these horror stories about people being like, oh, this guy stole my build, or like, that guy's stealing my build. And it really...
It's not a case of they stole the build. It's they took the build. They said it was based on a design that they came up with, which then, in fraction, becomes the stealing of the build. Realistically, most of the people who are doing the same thing, you're all innovating on the same concept. You're all using the same idea. And that's okay. It feels sucky when somebody takes from you like that. And that's okay. That's normal. That's fine. Everyone gets fucked over like that. But what's not okay is y'all motherfuckers lying to yourselves about the builds you're putting together. And making everybody else feel like the only way forward is to do some shit. that you don't need to do. Because you've got them coped out of their mind that if they don't do exactly the optimal line, that they're playing dog shit. And it's the craziest part. It's so fucking crazy watching people do that to themselves. Because you can't blame other people. If you're doing it to yourselves, you're pushing the problem onto yourself. It's no longer our problem. It becomes your problem. Or generally a problem.
He doesn't feel like that at all with you. You were all just out here trying to like make the coolest builds. Where like, you know, if you take parts of my build and make it better, like that's super awesome. And like, it doesn't feel like there is that hostility or like, you know, territorialism with your, oh, this is my build and that guy went out and stole my build. So I think
Not
that's,
yet, at least.
It's more about, do you understand how it feels when people just could credit you, don't credit you, and then pretend that it was an honest mistake? Because we're making money off of this. That's the problem people have to remember. We're content creators. If I made something, I made it with my hands. I put in the time and the effort. I came up with it. And then you take it from me. I'm gonna roll you. I'm gonna roll you. Because you can't just do that. I'm talking old school Spider-Man 90s. You can't take from me! Because it's that serious. Because you're actually taking money out of my mouth. Ain't no need for no Fargo Season 4 here. You unironically are stealing from me. You took the money out of my mouth. You took the money out of my mouth, and you made me have to sit there and watch you eat my lunch. There ain't no talking after that. Call me crazy. But ain't no talking after that. We're just fighting. I'm fighting you now. I'm gonna be broke.
At least not yet. Hopefully we keep it that way. But yeah, ask the guys if you guys are looking for cool builds. His stuff is all in Korean, unfortunately, but you know, you can make your way around with it with a little bit of work. But that guy makes some awesome builds, because my favorite build of this league was also based off of Astis build, which my favorite archetype this league has been the Cast on Freeze, Voltaic, Mark, Herald of Thunder, Cascade, which has been super fun. But it was a build that was using that, which is a Gathering Storms Flicker Strike Invoker, using that Herald of Thunder, Voltaic, Mark Tech, because it just looks so pretty. It looks so good. It makes, I mean, it kind of, if you have it built correctly, it will destroy your computer. It'll destroy your graphics card. But, you know, it's worth it. It just looks so good. It's so fun to play. The build one-shots bosses. It clears map really fast. Flies all over the place. Overall, just like the most visually appealing build that I've seen and I've played this league. And, you know, I played a lot of good builds this league that use that, but also, I mean, I played the Whirlwind, the Whirling Slash build, which was also really good, but this build, for me, definitely takes the cake. And, yeah, Deepest Tower, absolutely OP. I'd say, like, Lightning Spear, or Tangle Tongue is probably the most OP unique in the game right now, but I think following up in this number 2 spot is...
It's honestly the Deepest Tower. It's not Tangle Tongue. Tangle Tongue is only strong because of its interaction with crit. And the fact that the Amazon, any character that wants to build towards an agnostic build through the Amazon's tree, can benefit from the critical strike that comes from Tangled Tongue forking your crit, which is to say, a twice critical hit. Twice crit is a mechanic that should be given to spells, and I do think it actually functions like that for a normal blood mage, but it feels like it needs to be given to the Chronomancer, because a twice critical hit with a kit designed for one-handed use means, with modifiers that grant damage based on damage you already have, you think the Amazon's broken? Wait until we get the switch flip 2-hand, 1-hand, 1-hand. You think you haven't seen you think you've seen damage? You think you've seen damage? Wait until somebody gets their hand on all 3 shrine buffs. Technically 4. So 4. Fire, lightning, cold, chaos. Because you have to evolve the fucking scepters in the first place to get the chaos flip. Let these people find out what an invoker can do with a twice critical blast. Let them find out what a monk of Shayula can do with a chaos blast. Let them find out what a hand of destruction buffed bell, ringing the bell, being a Taco monk, like being a Taco Bell monk, does to the peak. What's that? You're trying to touch me? No, you're not, because you're frozen. And you're being shattered constantly. Over here now. Oh, you're trying to fight me? Says me and my fucking spear. Krakow! The entire screen's gone. Oh, you're still coming at me? Krakow! The other 5 screens behind you are gone. You're still running at me. Krakow! Another 10 screens got cleared. In the distance. You're still running at me. Ice strike, ice strike, ice strike, ice strike. Short staff. Me and my 7 power charges. My natural reaction. Flicker strike. Whoop. Nothing personal, kid. The entire screen blew up. Without Herald of Ice. With Herald of Ice, the screen blew up 4 times. 10,000 damage X multiplier. Because I'm gaining the effect of having spent multiple charges every time I spend my charges. 7 charges? No, I spent 14 charges. Bell Monk and Element Monk waves over in the distance towards Deadeye. Deadeye, riding on the back of Heroic Companion, says, "Hi guys! Lance! 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 Lance!" The entire screen's blowing up! And she's not doing anything special. She's just doing what already exists. Because every time I use my charges now function as having been casted with double automatically. These 2 people, axiomatically from 2 sides of the same divide, because they both build damage, show the potential of what people have forgotten, which is you need defenses and offenses. You only need enough offenses. You put a little bit of focus on your defense. So that when you then scale your offense, you can drop your defense to a basic survivability standard. Because now, the entire screen is obsolete. Or to put that into context, considering what I'm doing right now in Balatro, playing a card deck that gets me choose a Joker that scales over time with base plus volt means that I can find a card set that then gives base plus chips that then allows me to linearly keep up to where I'm going to based on the sale value of this card. Then, by switching in a couple of different Joker sets that create some viability, with just one thing in the back pocket, should something go fucky, I secure myself scaling while buying time for power. And if I get there with the baseline, okay, cool. Because then I still have to power form for my fucking chase unique. Because unfortunately, this game and Exile 1 are based around chase uniques. You're not supposed to do all content week 1. Every single time. Every time we make this mistake. Every time the industry makes this mistake. Especially with the gamification of esports. Every time you make this mistake, you're not supposed to be at tier 4 on day 1. You're not supposed to be at tier 4 on week 1. You're supposed to be at tier 4 maybe week 2. Because you're not supposed to be racing each other, trying to monetize the trade league. Look over between yourselves at SSF. We over at SSF, humbly inside the mine, looking for all of the necessary levers of power for our build. Look over at Trade League. Trade League's going the way of the fucking dodo. Fucking themselves over in their stock market economy. Yes, Alva, please. Yes, I need to have 5 gyms. 5 gyms? Yes, 5 gyms. Give me 4 gyms, 4 gyms, 2 gyms, 2 gyms, 3 gyms, 4 gyms, 5 6, 7, 9, 98, 10, 10 win, 21, 22, 23 devices in there to get this item. All right, 20 different hands, 1 for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Do I have 7? 8. I have 8. Do I have 9? 9. Do I have 99? 99 to the Korean gold farmer in the back. 99 simple vials of distilled despair. 99 vials of distilled despair. And all of you are sitting there looking at it happening. And you think, this is fine. This is normal. This is what the game is supposed to be. Meanwhile, Tom, Dick, Harry, Sally, Bill, Jimmy, Jim, Jimmy John, Jimmy Joe, Billy Jim, and Jedediah are saying, nigga, what the fuck? I don't believe this shit. Can you see this shit? Bro, I can't believe it. Goddamn, I can't ever get an item. Because unfortunately, they aren't a broadcaster that can play for 16 hours a goddamn day. And none of you make it seem like it's possible for you to understand the middle. Because you forget them. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills every time you say it. It doesn't matter if Foam Gun says it. It doesn't matter if Ziz says it. It doesn't matter if Steel says it. Trade is shit. It's bad. I should not need to depend on somebody who's lazy, who will not trade me for his item when I need an upgrade. I'm not doing it. I'd rather throw 50,000 hands in Balatro and at least 20 plus Chaos Orbs and 50 Exalted Orbs out of white. And make that white colored and racist before I let myself lose my brain cells waiting in a trade league queue. I will not do it. I will not do it. Because every single one of those players that find themselves in that dynamic, none of them like what they're doing. None of them. None of them. None of them. Because when you look at the truth of it, and I mean you really look at it, when you look at the truth of the trade site and what that broken amount of busted economy really feels like, I gotta sign into my Battle Exile account. Motherfucker. Actually, I should have chosen email. Kappa. Kappa Pride. Backwards. There we go. What that looks like. Let's just do bulk essences. Show me envy. Show me the essence of ruin. Show me the greater essence of ruin. Show me greater essence of infinite and essence of the infinite. Traded for exalted, divine, annulment, fracturing, and calandra, and perfects. Search. That's exactly what I expected. When you tell me that the majority of what I'm reflected to expect to be normal is this right here, I'll explain what the chat is looking at. Divine string. What you want. What you pay. I need to have one divine orb to trade for the essence of the infinite. Maybe even one to get an essence of the greater infinite. As well as one to get a greater essence of ruin and an essence of ruin. These are the normal flips of the item. I need to have one of these to make a white turn into a blue with a guaranteed roll at a affix line in the suffix for stats. This turns a blue into a yellow, magic into a rare with the same roll, thus meaning if I start and I hit 1, then I have the ability to roll 2, and after rolling on 2 and locking one prefix, one suffix automatically, I can then roll again with a greater essence of the infinite and potentially pull the stats onto the item type I need to find the lines that I want, should I want to then combine them together with the recombinator, or if I wish to just use it as raw trading to force the change onto something like belts, which is what I did, to make belts that I can use on multiple characters. Whether it be for an experiment, or it be because I just simply needed to craft belts, and I had some belts that were 3 out of 3 charms that I could actually be able to use without having to re-roll them from 1 to 3 or 2 to 3 with the few amounts of divines I have. So if I'm farming essences of the infinite and greater essences of the infinite, I should be able to expect a trade value of 1 divine, which means I can now make content and I can now make money off of selling you resistance belts. But here's the problem. Okay, that's what that's supposed to be, right? So let's look at the bulk trade again. So let's say I want to get divines. In order to make bulk trades, should I already have the content? Well, what am I going to trade for it? Probably exalted orbs. Maybe even chance orbs. Maybe perfect jewelers. And maybe mirrors of Calandra. Look at it. 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 But Carl, you're looking inside of standard. Standard is the one that's broken. Okay, let's look that down to the hunt. Is it any better? But Carl, you're looking at the normal trade league. Why don't you look at hardcore, the real game? How many ways do you want to do this game? Because assuming that they're able to live, they're able to pull out their profits. Most people don't want to lose their characters when they die, and you will die a lot in Path of Exile 2. You will die a lot. It's expected. It's normal. If you're playing hardcore, you're probably one of the betters, or the greaters, or you have a lot of time in your hands. The number doesn't change. It's always a drastic increase. I should not be paying 50 Exalteds to trade 1 Divine Orb to somebody. Maybe it should be a little bit more like half. 25. exalteds for 1 divine. Notice that you don't even see a trade cap for the other item. It's because it doesn't exist. Let's increase the fold, shall we? Let's go to the middle. Open up everything. Let's remove exalteds from the table. Let's see what happens. No results. Not inside of hardcore. How about Dawn of the Hunt? 15 Chaos Orbs? These are hard to get. But that's a little bit closer to normal. 15, 16 for 1 divine? That's alright. So let's then do the math. If I want a Chaos Orb, how many Exalteds, if that's the new money standard, do I need to give? Oh, wow. 174 Exalteds for 5. Somebody actually trying to go to the margin of saying 150 for 1, despite the fact that that is not good. And they have stocks of 404 Chaos Orbs, 783 Chaos Orbs. I don't think this is a good result, guys. I don't think we need to be hoarding that much economy. Well, hey, what do I know? I'm an SSFer.
Quality Deepest Tower, in my opinion. It is absolutely...
Let's save a low-life topic for next week, then. We'll put that on the list for next week's show. I think that's a good discussion.
Sure.
Because, yeah, I agree. I don't know if it's Deepest Tower necessarily, but low-life builds and like Deepest Tower makes it way better. But,
low life is not a thing. It is just, if I can be at low life, then I can be at low life. If I can't be at low life, then I'm not at low life. It doesn't really go one way or the other, but it does go somewhere, and that place that it goes is to my bank account. As I laugh straight up to the bank with this ha 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 ha. Because unfortunately, money is money. And if time is money, I'm wasting it if I'm not making some profit back off the margin.
life in general is very dominant. Like I felt I was avoiding Deepest. I could have made more of my builds Deepest Tower builds, and they would have been better. And I was actively like.
Deepest Tower makes benefit off the fact that dealing damage to enemies as though they exist at the rate of low DPS is a normal outcome. That is what Deepest Tower does. Deepest Tower wants to be in that position, and it wants to do it often. Fortunately, that does not mean every character will get the chance to do it. Most kills won't get the chance to do it because they just won't get the chance to do it. They won't get the chance to do it because they won't get the chance to experience it. They won't get the chance to experience it because they won't be at the level of power necessary in order to cause it. And it'll be a constant feedback loop.
Avoiding doing more low life builds. That's how good it felt.
Yep.
I guess I shouldn't start that topic, but after also saying let's not talk about Deepest Tower. So. Well, we can transition straight into Tangle Tongue and Crit then, because yeah, this is the topic I've wanted to happen for a while. It came to me like before we had the podcast going. A viewer came to me and he said that he thinks Crit builds are OP and he thinks they should be nerfed. And I started thinking about that, and it eventually led to me actually have a fully edited video that I was going to upload to my channel. But then we got the podcast going, and I ended up canceling because it felt weird to upload that video and then talk about it with you guys. So I just want to set the premise and see your guys' thoughts on it. So yeah, that's the general topic is Crit overpowered? And there's a lot of ways you can identify this. One, when you look at POE Ninja, you look at the heat map for it. It is fairly telling. Now, heat maps can be a little inconclusive just because...
This doesn't say shit. Unless you explain to us what the fucking reference point's supposed to be. And unfortunately, considering that the majority of the characters that we're looking at builds that start from either the Ant Bazan, or I should say, the Ranger or the Huntress, because that's her tree, or the Monk, because that's his tree. Oh wow, characters that have something that does something with charges, and charges having some of the best consequence with damage in the game. Oh wow, I can't believe that there are so many people that are choosing that. Damn, that's crazy. I can't believe that people would want to use something that is going to give them multiplicative crit because they have multiple charge effects. Oh wow, that's so strange. I can't believe that's something they would do. I also can't believe that they would like to have increased evasion and increased amounts of stat lines. Damn, they want free stats too? They want to be able to get some crit. They want to get a crit dip. They want to be able to get some additional crit when they crit, as they crit, when they crit. Bonus damage for critting. Additional crit multiplication when they hit somebody that has been hit with full life since the first time they throw lightning spear. That character has not been damaged. Being able to get first blood as an effect, especially considering if they're choosing to take the agnostic route away from the tree start that starts for the mage, which that right there, that top sphere, that's the blood mage's path. As they agnostically move over through the monk's tree and then down the crit path and aligned from the crit into the Amazon's tree. Huh, weird. Maybe it's not that it's broken and overpowered. Maybe it's just a good scalar. Maybe quadratic scaling off of dealing 150 plus damage, getting 90% crit chance increased, which then means 100% multiplicative power to your final crit damage, which is being amplified twice by the twice critical effect of Tangle Tongue. Oh, maybe it's just that Tangle Tongue does a really good job, and the downside is that it doesn't have a lot of base on it, which is why the Blood Mage is so goddamn crazy. Because Blood Mage only needs elemental. It doesn't need physical scaling. Then again, if your physical hit crits so goddamn hard out the wing wang that when you hit somebody with a fucking blood crit, they die instantly because you've stocked an impale of your physical damage from that attack. And that attack is being expressed as unscaled plus damage from the bleed. You hit him, you crit him, you go in on the man, you blood hunt him, you leave behind an impale, you damage, you backflip away, and then you shink! Ride in again with your rake, and all of a sudden the health goes from here to here instantly. If it's not a full pop, it's a pop to the range effect. Especially if you happen to be making use of any effect of additional power through rage. So, stab, 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 stab. Oop, I've hit 10 rage. Ho! Shink! All of a sudden, a cauterized wound has exploded for... What's that multiplicative chain? I said 10kx, right? 10kx multiplied multiplicatively by a number that usually is somewhere around a baseline of 500. I don't know. Should that boss be blown up immediately? Probably. Considering that we are paper fucking skin thinned. If I can't be able to kill the enemies in my map, then I'm gonna die. Period. Doesn't matter how strong I think I am. If I take a slam, I'm dead. Because I don't have the ability to evade slams. What gives us the ability? Oh wow, look at the side of the tree that it's on! Is that acrobatics? Oh wow, I can't believe they go over there. Because it's right outside a crit node. Hello? There's a jewel slot there! Hello? Timeless diamonds! Hello? It's normal! It's fine! There's nothing wrong!
It's like you have so many people playing one build, and that one top build happens to be a crit build, you're going to see that heat map lit up at general. But the general heat map shows that almost a majority of builds are going crit builds. It is very specific builds that don't go crit builds, and it is for a lot of reasons. One of the main reasons being some of the...
Because there's no defensive builds. I tried making a defensive regenerating warrior. Oh, he never died, but he never killed anything either. And unfortunately, that does not work for Thorns, because Thorns needs Thorns critical. And guess what? You see all this non-existent on the left side of the tree? That's the warrior starting zone. It appears the majority of people wanted to play monks and Amazons this league, bro. I don't tell you. They realized and found the tech. One-handed plus a shrine means a lot of spirit. Spirit means a lot of buffs. Self buffs, ignite buffs, team buffs, minion buffs. Increased damage into hand, especially if you're holding a unique. Especially if you're holding a unique that's feature complete. spears that do power, spears that do excess, Tangle Tongue, obviously. There are too many weapons that just benefit from having a fucking scepter in your offhand. Not even to mention Searing Flame, because we don't even have to get 40 to 60 extra damage, because we don't care about that. The monk does. That entire tree, where is it? It's right there up towards the north. Yeah, right up there, past the original crit line, next to the other side of the crit node. That's the harness wheel. Harness the fire element, harness the ice element, harness the lightning element. Usually, the monk can only be able to create 2 of them consistently, because cold and lightning is normal. Searing in hand, what an offshoot. I created night because I have added fire. I throw Tangle Tongue, it's got fire damage in it. They get scorched. Hello. Let me just ring your bell. Cause I'm a smasher. Dum 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 dum. And then I flicker and everyone dies. Come on, don't be silly.
The crit nodes on the right side of the tree are just some of the best passives in the game. You can just take a couple of those crit nodes and that will scale your entire build for crit. You won't need to take any more crit nodes in general, and you can somehow weave around that. There happens to also just be crit everywhere on the passive tree. Every single area on the tree has critical strike.
If everywhere on the tree didn't have critical strike, then that meant that only a couple of builds would be allowed to play with crit, and that's not fun. Granted, we're talking about baseline over transformational critical strike, not spell crit. We don't see a lot of minion builds using that because they don't have to worry about it. It comes on their gems, on their jewels, on their jewel flips. But, unfortunately, until we add spell critical, specifically to the characters, on their wheel tree, and not inside of their ascendancy, that's not going to change. Unfortunately. Because triggered an enemy. Metagems kind of killed that. Because you don't have to have it. You're wearing the weapon that has all the crits you need.
Versus a lot of the other passive types. If you look at Ignite, if you look at Poison, if you look at Bleed, if you look at any other archetype, Lightning and Cold, compared to Critical Strike, there are some Poison you can only get access to on the far right side of the screen.
Yeah, you know why? There's a reason why. Do you know why? Because it's meant to be used with spears and bows. What's on the side of that heat map? Spears, bows, and quarterstaves. Why? Because that's the Huntress, Ranger, and Monk starter points. What is the Huntress and Ranger? They are the Dex class. What is the Monk? He is the Intelligence Dex class. Come on! Catch the hint! Dex is good! Dex is good!
There's no other poison stuff. Bleed only in the top left and the bottom center. Versus Crit, which can go everywhere.
I wonder why. What's connected to the center of the tree? Could it be the Mercenary? Which can then cross over with the Warrior? Man, you rage baiting me. You rage baiting me hard, bro. You rage baiting me hard.
And then you add on the fact that Crit makes a lot of these other side of things better, because most ailments right now scale off of how hard you hit. You know what makes you hit harder? A lot harder? Crit. So if Ignite and Poison and all this stuff are scaling off of how hard you crit, oftentimes, or how hard you hit, oftentimes Crit is enabling these other archetypes even more.
Yes, which means we need to change how the fucking formula works. Not nerfing Crit into the ground. There's no baseline formula that allows Bleed to work in such a way where the more magnitude that you have, that you can be available, that you can gain through the availability of certain uniques that aren't the ones that obviously exist in that spectrum, need to be brought to the fold, specifically for that class to use. That's something that needs to be brought to the Ritualist. It's something that needs to be brought to the Amazon. It's something that needs to be brought to the physical hitting classes, because they don't have them. We're missing the Berserker. Something bad. Something fierce. We need it. We need it. Need it.
Then you just add on the fact that we have some of the best uniques in the game. Like, even if you remove Tangle Tone, you have Wrath Pipe, that offhand mace, or offhand mace, offhand
Focus.
Focus, thank you. That just pales with any caster crit build perfectly. So, just in general, crit, I don't, do you guys think it is too overpowered? Do you think it is in too much abundance on the tree, or do you think it is other things that need to be buffed more? Because when I still think, even after everything I just listed, I still don't know if crit is necessarily the problem. Maybe it's a little too accessible, and maybe, like, obviously, Tangle Tongue, like...
Well, you see, the problem is that you're going with the fan opinion, and you're trying to hit multiple fucking holes. And unfortunately, the holes you're trying to hit, you're trying to address for the concerns that other people are going to be having. Because it's not just going to be me that's going to be calling you out about that. It's going to be the people who are going to go to your chat room and say, you didn't talk about this one and this one and this one, and I don't like the fact that you didn't mention that. They're gonna get on your ass for it. 100% they're gonna get on your ass for it. And they should. Because you're not telling them the truth. You're not telling them the truth. Your rage button. I could have gotten away with another one. Oh well. Then it's enough. This rage beating the shit out of him doesn't help him, bro. Okay, Hector. Okay, Pear.
I don't think anyone's going to disagree. It is insanely overpowered, at least for an easily accessed unique. That should be a chase unique for how good it is. It is so strong. But like ignoring the unique aspects of it, do you guys think crit is too powerful, or do you think other things are just not as easy to scale? I know it's kind of like a broad topic.
They're not as easy to scale. Obviously, they're not as easy to scale. If you change it around and make it easier to scale, you'll have less of this problem. Simple as.
Because you have so much with like all of these ignite scaling off of crit and stuff. Like, what do you think needs to change here? What do you think it is actually a problem or not? Let's start with Miso.
Well, before we even hop into that, I just wanted to bring up the heat map on the screen that you were talking about. As you can see here, all of the ones that are highlighted green, the deeper green it is, more and more used compared to the other ones. And you can see, as Cal mentioned, that on the right-hand side, everything is lit up over here, and this is where pretty much all the crit exists. Now, I think there is a little bit of a bias in a sense, because over here is all the armor nodes and the strength nodes, which are not really the best, and up here is the evasion.
Strength is just not great without having a couple things in mind. If you give it something to have strength in mind, it becomes better. Until we do that, it doesn't matter.
ES stuff, which is where mostly people will be making their builds in. But even when you're playing the more like armor ES side of things, right, you're still going to be scaling crit. You're still going to be making that your main, area of growing your damage and making your damage stronger. But I would say that in terms of the crit conversation, I do think that crit is extremely powerful right now. But at the same time, I don't know if it necessarily would need a nerf, because I think rather than crit being overpowered, it's just more of non-crit builds can't really scale that well. I think that in Path of Exile 1, both crit builds and non-crit builds are, there are viable options.
Yes! Elemental Conduit. Yes! Not having to worry about crit and just getting extra elemental percentages to increase my baseline, because I can't quadratically increase myself to the degree the other ones do. Because now, all attacks are hits. Spells are not considered hits unless they're hitting. Then, when spells are considered hitting but not hitting, oh no! What do? I can't not hit the guy. That's what's really causing the problem there. We're fucked on that. Change that up, then we're fine. Of course, that requires us to not be coping out of our minds. But of course, we're going to cope out of our minds.
But in Path of Exile 2 right now, crit is the only way to scale damage, just because there isn't as much scaling and opportunity to grow your damage to big numbers compared to crit. You can definitely go both ways of nerfing crit or buffing the other stuff. I think both of them are fine. But I think that, if you think about it this way, right? I think that right now, if you take out every single crit build in the game and only use non-crit builds, there's probably only a handful that can actually clear every single piece of content comfortably. So because of that, I don't think it's that crit is overpowered per se, because it feels like crit is the baseline for what you want to be using to actually clear all the content. It's just that non-crit builds are just not very good. There's probably, like I said, a couple of them that can actually clear everything. So I think it's more about buffing non-crits rather than nerfing crit itself. Though Tangle Tongue does, I think, need a change.
I'm definitely on the same boat. I think crit is always going to be a staple piece in games like this to scale damage. I don't think it's in a state where you would say now it is something that would need to be nerfed in any sort of form. It's kind of the same vein as the passive tree as it stands right now. We have a little bit of a two-class society on the passive tree just right now. The right side, and in point 1, for example, a lot of people were talking about the top side. In point 1, it was a lot of people were saying the top side is really good, everything else is just bad. Right now, it shifted from being from the right side to the left side. It's just that we have so many options and so many good builds on the right side than compared to the left side, which is kind of only Titan builds who use Resolute Technique, and most of the builds that are using Resolute Technique are also utilizing the Deepest Tower for some reason, because they cannot scale damage as well as critical hit chance or critical base build. So what do they need? They need scaling through Deepest Tower. And that, I think, perfectly shows that it's just a lack of options when it comes to that certain thing. What I would use as an example as well is the build I already mentioned before here, the build that I use as a League starter, which was the Essence Strain Contagion Lich. That is due to the dot damage being not scaled by crit in any form, because dots cannot crit, and most of the build damage was based on the Essence Strain dot. You could not scale that build over a certain point. The only scaling for the damage you had in this build was spell damage, chaos damage, and the level of the skill gem. That was all. If there would be a reason, or if there would be a possibility to scale this build through crit, and you could go even further and even further, I would probably still be playing that build from time to time. But it just hit a ceiling where I was just like, yeah, okay, I need to transition to something else now, because I cannot scale to the point where I wanted to scale now. And I just think this shows perfectly that crit is, in my opinion, in a very valid stage. It's not in need of nerfs or whatever, because it feels very good when you are actually playing a crit build. You can it feels very good to actually scale damage, and you have a certain thing to look out for at all times, and it is something that is, in my opinion, very, very normal in like build making and stuff. It's a normal damage scaler. We just need more options, I think. Like I said, we have a few options on the left side with Resolute Technique. We have the Deepest Tower or whatever. It just needs more. We just need more archetypes that scale damage without having crit, but at the same time.
Thank you for telling the truth. That's what we've been missing. That's why I said I want Poison. Poison doesn't need crit. It just scales off of chaos alone.
I think it will always be a very, very big staple piece, because every single gear piece in the game, like any bow, anything, any quarterstaff, any hammer, it's all based on crit. Everything has a base crit chance.
Yeah, I think I agree overall. I do think crit does need a slight nerf, at least crit damage bonus. I find myself, no matter what build as long as it's not a Resolute Technique build like you're saying, I find myself almost always anointing something that gives me crit. Almost always, unless I have to anoint something that's giving me super defensives. I look at a passive like Cooked, that's giving you 60% critical strike bonus, which that is a lot, people. That's a lot of damage for, like, was it 15%, like, less nothing? Like, it does nothing.
15% less defenses, which means you're losing armor, evasion, and energy shield value.
Nothing to your defensives for how much damage you're getting. There's a lot of passive.
No, it does a lot to your defensives. Because it's on the evasion side of the tree, which means if you're taking this and you're playing a skill that is designed to stay out of the fucking way, you need to have some return to your estimated value of your increased evasion rating. So, if you're trying to wear an evasion chest, and that evasion chest does not get you to a baseline of evasion, that when you want to take acrobatics to start evading slams, puts you closer towards 50 to 80% full evasion with acrobatics, when without it, you would have near the entropy cap, if not at the entropy cap, which should be 90%, then your ability to survive is completely based around if you can survive a slam, have the armor to survive a slam, which you probably don't, because you're probably stacked all the way into innovation, don't have any armor, even though, even with a buckle or an armored shield, you're gaining such high block stat values that you're able to take the evasion dip. Because if you're not evading and outright ignoring and leeching, you're blocking. This alongside the increased damage for getting plus block, plus evasion, plus armor, and plus block cap to your block chance, with 1% increase for every point that you get for attack value for your block amounts, means even though you might be taking maybe 15 to 65% of the damage on a blocked hit, If we have a health value that's somewhere between 3,000 and 8,000, and we're dealing billions of damage multiplicatively with critical chance, and we even have 1% of physical leech, that's a lot of leech getting back to your character. Involve the fact that if you're playing a blood mage, you already have double your health because life remnants, and you're critting all the time. So it's not just, oh, I have to have shrine buff existence. You know, you're not getting a snoo-base situation. It's, I hit the boss, stab, 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 stab. I went from nearly dead to now double my health pool, and then I backed away from you, and then I slashed you, and now you're dead, and I'm alive, and I'm looting my time treasure. There's a world of difference between doesn't matter and literally how I function. And unfortunately, that's literally how the fucking class functions. I'm sorry. 15% less evasion rating is a lot if you don't have evasion rating. Now, assuming that what you care about is energy rate as well as evasion, monk, then be blessed, beloved. You have meditation. You can scale your health pool. You don't care, because you're not even using your energy shield as your health pool. You're using it as a defense to protect your violet health pool, which is now what regenerates. And when you press your fucking flask button, you automatically get the effect of Zealot Oath. You can have 20k energy shield, and they'll never kill you! Because they can't chip through your shield, because you're immediately regenerating 10k of that shit in 2 seconds! Ah! You might as well say at the top of your head, it's the evil giant! Ah! Because no one's gonna kill you. And you kill everybody else. Really what we're saying here is, what the fuck are we talking about, sir? That's really what we're saying. That's really what we're saying. So we can't cope. Okay? We can't cope. We're just coping. We're lying to ourselves. It is annoying. Shouldn't do it. It is dumb. Goodbye, Stamp. Hello, Kintsugi Joker. That's pretty. That's really pretty. It's like we can't keep doing this, man. You can't keep lying to yourselves. Lying does not help people learn how to play the game. Can I get a 7, please? Can I get a 7, 9, and ace? I got an 8. Turn into a 7. Do I want to go back in time? I do.
Like that on the tree that are just, I'm not saying it should punish you more, but crit has a lot of passives like that are big gains for either no loss, or very little loss. And I just find myself like, there's the one annoying, the one passive, what's called Storm Cooked, where like it's the crit elemental damage one.
Storm Charged, yeah.
Yeah, Storm Charge, thank you. Like I just find like myself, like it is so hard to what to build defensives via passives, because when you're doing a crit build, you can really scale almost purely through the like, at least with my builds, right? With this crit build, I can almost scale entirely through the passive tree, and then all my defenses come from gear and some other aspects of how I'm playing. Crit can carry my build's damage exclusively, and I think that comes a lot from just how accessible crit damage bonus is. Like like we just mentioned Annoyance, didn't even mention the fact that jewels, you can get 20% crit damage bonus on all of your jewels. So a lot of these paths that you're seeing on the heat map, they're taking several jewel nodes along the way, and a lot of times it's going to be like maybe a Prism of Belief, maybe a Megalomaniac. You know, sometimes it'll be something to put. What's the one that lets you put passes across the tree near the
Nothing.
From Nothings. Yeah, so sometimes you see From Nothings, but you're usually using From Nothings to get more crit stuff or get like the toxic, like the increased ailment damage stuff. Like it's everything just goes to crit with most of my builds, and even when I'm not like, yeah, it's just the best way to enable builds like this. I think Miso said it best, that crit feels like, outside of the outliers like Tangleton, you both kind of said it, crit seems like maybe the floor they should be looking at for all of the other playstyles. They should be trying to get crit more on par. My concern with that is since crit directly scales all of those things, that's such a dangerous road because it's still at some point, you're going to be like, no matter how high I'm scaling my ignite, as long as it's scaling off of that initial hit, you're going to feel the need to want to always build crit. So I feel like at some point, they're going to be a crossroad where at least one of these ailments has to stop scaling off of hit damage, at least as hard as it can, as it is, because that's where, like, I don't see how you, like, I don't know, I just feel like you're almost always going to want to build crits.
Yeah, that's kind of goes with what I was saying about, like, it's always going to be stable. I think that is to be expected that crit has, or like critical hit chance in any game that, it's not even just ARPGs, just any game will always, it's just stable. It's just always going to be one. And like you said as well, there are some notes on the street that if they stay this way, it is always going to be, going to stay that way. Like stuff like you said Cook, for example, but like just, if you could just go for barbaric strength or vulgar methods, that's probably the two best. Like increase mana cost and reduce mana cost for 35% critical hit chance, 10 strength, 45 critical damage bonus, and 10 strength. Like that's just there's not going to be a node that is non-crit based that is as good as that. So yeah, we just need more options, I think, and the time will show. I think it's kind of maybe a little bit of a crutch right now because the game is in a state where it's not going to be too complicated, and I think they are doing a good thing of not implementing too many mechanics like this in a game that is still in a stage like this. I think it might just be a crutch right now. It is just put for the example, just put crit in there. We need this damage scaler. We think about everything else once we have the ability to do so. So it might just be a crutch right now. So we might get even more. We might not for a while. I think it's in a good state right now. We just need more options.
Any final thoughts, Miso?
I mean, you guys pretty much covered it.
All right, let's move on to our build of the... It's titled Build of the Week right now. It's not Build of the Week, but we're just going to... It's some form of build creator showcase from the community. We want to, as smaller creators, the community is constantly giving back to us, not just through, like, us creators reaching out to each other, wanting to collab. Bigger creators have all wanted to collab with us and stuff, but through the community itself, none of us make our builds 100% ourselves. No one does that. You've always learned something from someone else. There's always just little snippets that you take from someone else, and as build creators, it's impossible to avoid seeing comments that push us in certain directions, or, when we're streaming, we see advice from people, or, like we talked about earlier, as other creators, we are encouraging each other to do well. Like, there was no animosity between me and Rabbit, between him doing the Wind Dancer build. We were encouraging each other. I was excited when I saw what he did with it, right? We want to give back to... No, never mind. We have animosity. But yeah, it's just really...
Here. Speak for yourself, come on.
Yeah. He's jealous that I was ahead of him. It's okay. But yeah, it's really just like, this is a collaboration. No one makes the builds themselves, and we learn from the community, and yeah, we're just excited. Like, we all get excited when we see these builds because it means we get to apply something we learn from them to a future build of ours. It might not be next league, but it might be down the road. So that's the plan with this. And Miso, since, well, I'll let you take the point this right now because I don't know how you're going to be displaying it on your screen. But did you want to start with the Q Fun build? I don't know how you're displaying it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna pull it up on just like screen share the YouTube video. But Q Fun I think I don't think it's the build I'm showcasing.
Okay, I can talk about it then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you just gonna play the video on stream, or are you pulling?
Yeah, I'm just gonna pull up in the background basically.
Okay, cool, perfect. Okay, so this is a Caltrops build that both myself and Veiled Rabbit ended up stumbling upon a few weeks ago. Now, Caltrops builds are really cool in a lot of ways. I've tried making them work many different times. There's a cool aspect of Caltrops where it is a spirit gem that you can wear multiple of. And you can put in ways, I've tried making them work. This is a Caltrops build that both myself and Veiled Rabbit ended up stumbling upon a few weeks ago. Now, Caltrops builds are really cool in a lot of ways. I've tried making them work many different times. There's a cool aspect of Caltrops where it is a spirit gem that you can wear multiple of. And you can put many different support gems into each support gem of it, and you'll get the effect of all of those support gems across all of your Caltrops. So you're able to just wear several different spirit gems of Trail of Caltrops to get access to as many possible support gems as possible. So that's why you see him in his Path of Building. You'll see him using several different spirit gems for it. Allows you to just get access to all of the best support gems to amplify his damage, handle AoE clear and stuff. What's really cool about it is he is utilizing two specific uniques, which for me, when I'm a build creator, this is the stuff I get excited about, is when you have these two pieces of a puzzle that click well together that make the build transform. He is using the Ab Eterno boots. These make dodge rolls avoid all hits. Normally, you cannot dodge roll ground effect explosions. They will kill you, such as like the Arbiter's ground effect. If you saw in the clip, he was actually dodge rolling the Arbiter's big fire inferno that would one-shot you most of the time. This allows him to dodge roll that, and then those boots come with the downside of every time you dodge roll, you get slower, which makes this build horrible. That's why I gave up on this build. But he came up with combining it with Queen of the Forest, which your modifiers to speed.
Modifiers to speed with build with the roll means that then it creates the Caltrops on the roll, maybe even creating Caltrops on hit if he gets hit through his life, which is why he's wearing Energy Shield. Yes. Yes, Lord. That's why I play Path of Exile right there.
no longer apply to your character. So you're no longer getting that downside of the negative move speed, allowing you to just really dodge roll around. So it's the combination of the fact that he's stacking a bunch of spirit gems to just really abuse the fact that, I don't know if it's a broken mechanic or not, a bug in the game, but you do get...
Stop saying broken. Broken implies non-functioning and or not intended. If it's not intended, bring it to the eyes of the developer and allow them to give the final word. If they say, yep, this is fine, it's not broken, it's just overtuned. And then don't say it's overtuned. This is probably normal. Because unfortunately, Caltrops is one of those items that you look at and you say, what? Put down fucking Caltrops while I roll? Bro, I'm not trying to dodge roll, that shit sucks! It's an alternative built playstyle. There's no such thing as an alternative playstyle being bad. You know, outside of, you know, actually bad. Either it's different and it's good. Or it's different and it's different because it's bad. And because it's different, it's bad, and therefore it needs to be nerfed into the ground. Because how dare he make money off of having no items and I'm blah 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 blah.
Get access to every single support gem in Trail of Caltrops across all of the Caltrops that come across. So it's just, you're super amping it via that way. But then, of course, like as you can see, he's pretty unkillable. It's a really impressive build. You saw him.
151 experience gain. Area contains 15 packs of plague monsters, 14% increased gold, 33% increased number of monster packs, 52% increased number of rare monsters. Monsters fire 2 additional projectiles. 30% quantity, 30% rarity, so 26% rarity, but only by map bosses. Areas which contain breaches having 19% chance to contain an additional breach. 125 deliriousness, so he's getting that with all of the damage amp that comes on the bosses and enemies having resistance. So he's doing this through DR. 150 increased explosive radius for the use of expedition. Contains an expedition encounter guaranteed. 110% increased explosive placement range. +1 monster level through irradiated. Monsters gain 40% maximum life as extra maximum energy shield. Damage penetrates 50% elemental resistance. Area has 55% chance to contain Asmeri spirits. Unique monsters have +1 modifier. 35 pack size. 44 reduced quantity of items in this area, and 15 increased rarity of items in this area. Area is corrupted. Delirium Fog has double difficulty scaling with distance from the mirror. 250 increased weight stones in area, and 50% increased stack size of Galactus splinters found from non-unique monsters in area. More than likely, he scaled to this level using Expedition to create the items, and then using Delirium to get additional juicing to his maps. What's more impressive is that he's doing this in Ball Factory. So he's doing this amongst some of the most lethal characters and enemies in the game, period. But I feel like that's by design. I would like to see the tree, but you're not going to show me the tree now, are you?
Like, literally dodge rolling on Arbiter, so... I don't know, it's Caltrops, it's fun, it's creative, and again, for me as a build maker, I don't know about you guys, but when it's not just about like having that one build unique that makes the build work, but like it's that combination of uniques, this puzzle. It's like these two uniques working together make it to where you can just dodge roll freely, and you know, the abuse of Trail of Caltrops leads to just, it's not a playstyle everyone will want to play. It's probably something I could only play for maybe 5 to 10 minutes at a time, but it's really cool. That's
136 to 205 base physical damage. Yeah, Thorns. See, this is something that Thorns needs to have inherently, but it cannot be Dex. Because importantly, the only thing that allows you to do that, and use that with Thorns, is Yarn Reaper. And Yarn Reaper is what prevents you from being able to really make use of a lot of those things, because then you can't scale your gem level because you don't have base level Dex. Yarn Reaper needs to have an interaction that when I go to level up my gems, I don't have to trade them to a Dex character in order to actually increase them to a higher level. That's just me, though.
So, and I love these kind of builds. Rabbit, I mean, you saw the build. You saw it actually before I did. What are your thoughts on it? I cannot hear you right now.
I think the first time I actually saw a Caltrops build was when I was doing the Sekima race event with the farmer. I think that was the first time I actually got introduced. The first time for like a Caltrops build like that.
Toxic Snowball Pathfinder destroys. Yeah, Pathfinder. Goddamn Pathfinder. No matter what game we put you in, you're always goddamn broken. And that's quite fun. Snatch. And I'm going to put that in the POE section. Boom, boom, boom. To the side you go.
Because someone who actually made it into the final was playing a true just Caltrops dodge roll build, and that was the first time I actually went like, oh damn, this could be incredible. Why I didn't really go for that kind of thing is, and why I didn't really go for like a Temporalis build for this league, just playing it myself, is because I just I for some reason I just like the playstyle. I could never do all the just like spacebar. They probably have the dodge roll on a different button. I hope at least for the sake of their left thumb. But yeah, it's just super creative. This is what, in my opinion, Path of Exile 2 build making is all about. It's just about finding ways, exactly that thing about the boots that make your dodge roll better, just to keep it simple like that, make the dodge roll better, but have the downside of, people always harp on the downsides, by the way. That's also something we could maybe...
Because they want to be powerful, and they want to have the ability to do 10 billion damage and take no damage and still be able to kill everything. That's why. It's garbage. Super Omega offensive garbage. Actually,
we can maybe talk about at a later stage, because or in another podcast, that is, because people are always hating a little bit on the whole downside thing, that GGG has a lot of stuff where, or Path of Exile 2 has a lot of stuff where it is the upside and then the downside. But I think if everything only has upside, I think those kind of builds would never see the light of day, because people don't really see the point. And yeah, I have to find a solution now for this downside. In this case, the lesser movement speed after dodge rolling a bunch. And they found a solution, and that is how a creative build like that gets made. So yeah, it's amazing. I think it's everything that is right with Path of Exile 2 build making.
I mean, I think I talked about it as well with the whole downside thing in the past. Like, I totally agree. Like, sometimes you might think that, I would say there's sometimes where a downside maybe is too much, but I do agree, and like as a build maker, and I talked about this on Blaze's podcast as well, that sometimes these downsides really are there to allow build makers to stretch their mind, to be like, okay, there's this one downside here, how do I deal with it? Instead of having just like a positive where it's like, I'm just gonna slap this on to any other build and just make it better.
Yeah, I call it overcoming walls, like the friction of build making. It is not fun to me when I can, like, I call it farting my way through the game and everything just dies. Like, you're not even thinking about, I hate, it's not that I avoid meta builds, it's I don't want the game to be solved for me by using that skill. And a lot of times OP things end up doing that. To me, I enjoy hitting a wall and having to sit there and tinker, and then like a certain tinkering ends up spiking my damage by 200%, and now I can clear from white maps to red maps, and then I hit my next wall. Like, I call it hitting walls, and that's why I enjoy the off-meta builds, that you oftentimes have to use uniques like that to solve these problems. Like, it's problem solving, and like Dead Rabbit and you both said, like, this is what Path of Exile 2 is at its finest for me, especially as a build maker. It is this, because I have tried Trail of Caltrops twice now, because it's like, it's got the Thorns modifier to it, so obviously I'm just going to like at least tinker with it. I've tried it on my Tactician, which it kind of pairs well with the Tactician. You have the 50% reduced spirit cost reduction, so you can get a lot more Trail of Caltrops in. You know, you can actually do this build on a lot of different things, but it's really cool. And I was always just running into these like problems with where it's like too much friction with it, and like these are the solutions that you look at them like individually, like you said, and you would roll your eyes at it. Like, why would I ever use that? And like right here, like, and that's why it exists. You may not understand why this niche, really weird, unique, it was added. It might not be added. GGG might not even know why it's added yet. They're waiting to see what other people do with it. So not every unique has to be this obvious like home run with positives. But yeah, not that that was horribly bad. But yes, it's really cool. Like, these are the things I look for. And yeah, Miso, you said this is your friend's build, or
for the next one, for my build.
Yeah, I was just clarifying, was it your friend, or is it like a viewer? What is it?
I mean, he was so my build is going to be Gia's Chrono Stormtrooper build, and you know, you can call him a friend, we can call him an acquaintance, somebody I watch, but he, so the build I was talking about earlier, Asta's build, right? Actually, part of the build, I didn't actually form the initial part of the build from Asta's build. I actually formed my Gathering Storms Invoker, the Gathering Storms part from Gia's Gathering Storm Invoker, and then I combined it with Asta's and made edits to it. But Gia is a YouTuber who has made some really cool builds, and this build in particular, well, also Gia, give it some background. He, like you were talking about earlier, he hangs out on my stream every now and then. Cool dude, great guy. Definitely check out his YouTube channel. Which, by the way, all these builds that we're talking about, when the YouTube video comes out, I'm going to be leaving a link to all the builds in the description. So if you guys are watching this on the VOD, just go down there and there will be links to all these builds. But Gia, and on YouTube, his name is AwesomeGI0, has this build called the Chrono Stormtrooper Orb of Storms build, which is super, super cool. It combines two uniques that are really, really interesting that make the build work. And I'm just gonna show you how it looks and how it works, but it really is just using Orb of Storms and Shock Burst round to do a ton of damage. Now, this build is not by any means easy to play, unfortunately, but basically, that's what happens. He pops the two Orbs of Storms, and it does a ton of damage because Orb of Storms procs a lightning bolt every single time you use an a lightning skill, right? So Shock Burst rounds shoots extremely fast. As a result, he has two Orb of Storms that just does a ton of burst damage, and you can use this during mapping as well. But unfortunately, it is, like I said, it's a very, very high skill cap build, not just because you have to press quite a few buttons to be able to get it to start going, but it leaves you at really, really low life when you're getting your basically your combo setup. So before he starts, and it's not like the smoothest mapper either, but it's really cool. But as you can see in the video, his health drops down every single time. Now, he does use Mind Over Matter, which helps out, but it is a very complicated build that requires quite a few button presses. He calls himself he is a fighting game player, so he's used to all these, like, extremely tight inputs and, like, complicated button presses. So it's kind of really his style of build, but it's really, really cool, and it takes advantage of two unique items, which are the Burden of Shadows and the Indigon uniques, which basically kind of work together with each other very well, because Indigon makes it so that you have increased cost of skills, but also increases the so it does the increased cost of skills, and then this one makes it so that skills gain 1% of damage as chaos damage per 3 life cost, and then you have skills that cost mana get converted to life. So basically, the combo of these two skills just scales the damage like crazy and gives them huge damage on top of this really cool playstyle. And if you're looking at the video, he is shooting away from the monsters, but you don't actually have to shoot away from monsters. It's just kind of a stylistic thing. He thinks it's just funny to do, but it's such a cool build, such a cool skill. I really think it's super fun.
It's just demonstrating the fact that it's a laser honer. Because we don't actually have mines, and we don't actually have traps in the game quite yet. More than likely, that's going to be Shadow. So this is basically the closest you can get to being able to use power focus loci, and using loci mindset traps, and just pew 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 pew, automatic place sentries.
That looks. Yeah, when I was checking it out, when you were presenting that into the group, I was like, damn, this looks fucking crazy. This is once again something that is super creative, super good. But yeah, it looks a little bit squishy, but yeah, it's just I've never seen anything close to that, so that was definitely a new one.
I remember seeing it, I think, on Reddit, and just like the way you're moving like through the map, like. Yeah, I love those kind of builds. People get too hopped up on like every build having to like full clear all content and like not being, or having like 10k life and stuff. Some builds you have to just put into this build is going to hit a wall at some point, but this wall enables me to show some really cool techniques, and that's exactly what that build does. I mean, it's like peak flashy. Like it's not like completely like screen exploding PC bricking, but it is like when you watch it, you're like, oh, that's cool. And like if that was a meta build, everyone would be playing it. Just by like how cool it looks to play. Those are the coolest builds.
I think the coolest part about it was he was actually talking about how you might actually league start it next league because it'd actually be a league starter according to him. So if you have the hands for it,
with Indigons,
yeah. Well, you don't have to use the Indigon. You just okay. It scales the damage basically, right? It's one of those builds where you can do it without the uniques, but with the uniques is what allows him to basically do the huge burst damage that he did to Zash. So he said he's gonna try to league start next league. So in terms of funding, probably not that expensive to start off, but of course.
So if he does that as a league starter and he does it solo self-found, and he's able to do it without having to pay to the marketplace to make it possible, that means he's going to be broken. He's going to be broken. And that's good. Good for him.
Of course, if you want to scale it, you're going to want to put more money into it, but in terms of like who's going to play it, I definitely wouldn't recommend it for a new player, probably an experienced player, but for anybody who's thinking about it, check it out, because it might be viable as a league starter next league.
Just really quick, I'll let you make the ultimate call on it, Rabbit. Since we're going to do a deepest tower build next week, are you okay holding off of this build till next week, since it's also using deepest tower? We're doing deepest tower discussion next week, so I don't know if you feel like that one. Okay, cool. So we'll just do that build next week. Okay, well that's all our topics then, guys. I thought this was awesome. Obviously, I feel like we could talk about POE2 for 100 more hours, so that's why we started the podcast. We will be doing this every 2 weeks, you guys. It'll always be live on Miso's channel, on Twitch and YouTube, and you can find the VOD there in case, times don't work out. I think our plan right now is 2 p.m. Eastern every other Thursday. There will be moments where we feel the need to do, like, an emergency episode where it's, like, surprise patch notes, or, like, as we're coming into a league, we'll be wanting to talk about the game every week, and, like, at league starts and stuff. So there will be an increase in frequency, but in general, expect 2 a month, so you won't ever have these huge droughts of no content. But I had a blast with this podcast. If you don't know me, my name's Cal Torak. You can follow me on YouTube. I do sometimes stream on YouTube at on Twitch at Cal_Torak, but I don't really consider myself still a streamer yet. I stream occasionally. I mainly consider myself a YouTube. I like making videos. I'll pump out way more videos than I stream. So if you really want to follow me, you can follow me specifically on YouTube. Rabbit, go ahead.
Hello. I stream on Twitch TV, Dead Rabbit. That's it.
Yeah, I stream on twitch.tv/Misox, which is where you are at right now. Also, YouTube channel, I post Path of Exile builds. Recently, I haven't really been playing too much Path of Exile, mostly been playing other games. Though I am doing a SSF journey right now, another SF journey that I'm doing with Corrupting Cry Warbringer that I'm playing. So I usually do both Path of Exile, well these days, Path of Exile and a little bit of Uma Musume at the end. So it's a fun game. Yeah, check me out there.
And I just want And just to end on, if you guys have any feedback for us, let us know down in the comments. But specifically, if you are a creator or a fan of a build creator, give them a shout out in the comments. We are looking for builds to feature. We are obviously watching the community like a hawk for more builds, and we watch the subreddits and stuff. But there's something that goes on.
I don't believe that you're not gonna find those builds in those places because people are not gonna really shut them out. Not really. I don't believe it. I'll believe it when I see it.
Under our eyes, we're going to want to hear about it, and you might end up getting featured. So just spam those comments down below with your favorite build of the week, and over the next couple weeks as we're going into 0.3, we might feature one of those builds. But thank you everybody for watching. Shout out to these guys here for just dealing with me the last few weeks as we got this set up. It was a lot of hype and excitement going up today, but I love doing this, and yeah, we'll see you guys in a couple weeks. Have a good one.
Peace.
Oh, that's the first one. And wow, I did not expect that to take me 3 hours to get through. That's about right, because now I need to wait for the technician to come through. So, if you were here listening, thank you for listening. I'll see y'all later. Goodbye.